Chapter 262. How could Gu Qianxiu know what had happened? He did not rest for an entire night until he found the miracle photo studio. As a scholar, Gu Qianxiu was always filled with curiosity towards new things. He decided to personally experience this magical photography technique. As for catching Chu Tian, he would put it aside for now. What made Gu Qianxiu speechless was that when he arrived at the door of the photo studio, there was already a long line. How long would he have to wait? Gu Qianxiu's heart skipped a beat. He walked in front of the first person. This was a couple that was probably here to take a photo. Hello, I can't wait that long. Can you give your spot to this old man? Go, go, go. You're just taking advantage of your seniority. The young man waved his hand in disdain. Today, even a noble master would have to line up. Gu Qianxiu said, I can buy it with money. Buy it with money? The young man looked at him. How much can you pay? I'm telling you, I spent a lot of effort to get this spot. Don't treat it like I'm a beggar. Of course, of course. Gu Qianxiu's heart filled with joy. He reached out to touch his money bag, but his expression suddenly changed. This is bad. When he was paying the bill in the tavern, Gu Qianxiu had left all his gold coins there. Gu Qianxiu was a scholar and not a merchant, so he did not have the habit of bringing money with him. I forgot to bring the money. Gu Qianxiu awkwardly looked at the two of them before taking off a ring from his hand. How about we exchange it for money? This ring sparkled, clearly not a common object. Something taken from the great scholar's body. How could it be simple? It was enough for a normal person to eat and drink for 10 lifetimes. Who would have thought that the two of them would not know anything? Seeing that Gu Qianxiu's simple clothes did not look like a rich person, they thought he was a swindler. Old man, I'm telling you, don't think that you can fool me with a broken ring. If you want this spot, you have to buy it with real money or scram. Don't waste my time here, I don't lack this bit of money. Gu Qianxiu's nose went crooked from anger. This old man is the respected great scholar. Even the southern summer 8 marquises had to respectfully greet him, and a normal citizen like you dared to teach this old man a lesson? Gu Qianxiu was angry, but because of his status, he could not argue with a normal citizen. Just when he was feeling helpless, at this moment, a figure flashed by and landed beside him. It was the vice-captain of the Royal Knights, Tiger Li. Sir, we've caught him. The captain invites you to come over quickly. You caught him so quickly? Gu Qianxiu knit his brows and waved his hand. Don't worry about this for now. Do you have any money on you? I did. Great, take it out. Li Hu scratched his head in confusion. He had finally caught the man, but the grand scholar didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Although he was full of doubts, how could he dare to refuse a loan from the grand scholar? He immediately took out the money bag. Gu Qianxiu looked inside and saw that there were over 100 gold coins as well as several gold coin cards. He did not count the exact amount. This ring is for you. Gu Qianxiu threw the ring to Li Hu and then the bag of money to the young man. Take a look for yourself. The young man opened the bag of money, and there were several gold coins shining. There were also several gold coin cards. Although he did not see them clearly, one of them was 1,000. Oh my God! Was there a need to do this for a position? The young man quickly put away the bag of money and said with a laugh, Since old sir is sincere, then this junior will fulfill his promise and give this position to you. The young man quickly took the women and left. He really was a lucky bastard. This amount of money was enough to spend for half a lifetime. He should not show off his wealth, so he quickly ran away. In any case, he was from Central State, so why would he be afraid of not having a chance to take a photo? Like this, Gu Qianxiu was placed first. When the people who came later saw that Gu Qianxiu had successfully bought a position, the rich people all made a move. The front positions were all sold for several hundred gold coins. Tiger Li anxiously scratched his head. Was the grand scholar possessed? How honorable was his status? Why did he come here to join in the fun with these ordinary people? When the first ray of sunlight fell from the sky, the line in front of the photo studio had already filled the entire street, but the photo studio had not opened yet. "What is going on? We've been waiting all night and the sun is already up. Why haven't they opened yet?" Gu Qianxiu was a little worried. Could it be that Chu Tian had been caught, so the opening was delayed? So he shouted, "You merchants have to keep your promises. Since you said you're going to open today, then you have to open." Everyone did not complain much. The originally tightly shut iron gate suddenly opened slowly. Several beautiful Miracle Commerce employees came out and looked at everyone with a faint smile. One of them said, "Everyone, don't be anxious, we have already finished adjusting it. Now please line up to experience it." Yun Tianhe revealed a look of joy as he said to Tiger Li, "Wait here for me, I'll head over once I'm done." After saying this, he ran into the photo studio with his head held high. Tiger Li's mouth almost fell to the ground. Was this person really the grand scholar? Gu Qianxiu walked into the photo studio, and was shocked to find that there were many large pictures placed in the photo studio. There were forests, grasslands, lakes, and even the sky. Each picture was 3 meters tall and was very clear, just like a mirror. "Old mister, please choose a background." A white-robed young man came out. Gu Qianxiu recognized this person. Wasn't this Yun Xiao from yesterday's square? Being able to choose a background for a photo, this was truly a strange matter. Gu Qianxiu pointed at the sky background and said, "I want this." Yun Xiao waved his hand at the staff behind him. "Begin." Gu Qianxiu was guided by the Miracle Commerce staff. He faced the Miracle Commerce camera and felt a faint light sweep across his body. Yun Xiao made a gesture to indicate that it was done. "What? That fast? Old mister, go to the side room and print the photos." Yun Xiao said to Gu Qianxiu and then said to the staff, "Have the next one come in." Gu Qianxiu did not even have time to think about it and the photos were already done. Wasn't this too fast? When Gu Qianxiu came to the side room, there were several strange instruments with several male employees operating them. They asked Gu Qianxiu what size he wanted and what kind of material he wanted. The size of the material was related to the price. The cheapest one only needed several dozen silver coins. Of course, Gu Qianxiu had to choose the most expensive crystal. Then, he saw the staff take out a blank crystal sheet and stuff it into a device that looked like a printing machine. A layer of crystal was quickly plated on it, giving the surface a mirror-like texture, and Gu Qianxiu's appearance was clearly displayed on it. Perfect! Too perfect! Gu Qianxiu stood in the air with eagles flying behind him and a slowly approaching airship. Every strand of white hair and every wrinkle was clearly displayed. This was a technology that had been passed down through the ages. The camera did not look big, but if it was a bit more portable, it would have a different meaning. Mercenaries, traveling scholars, bards, all of these people had a camera in their hands, so they could take pictures of the places they walked and the things they saw, leaving behind countless precious pictures for their descendants, benefiting them for more than 1,000 years. Gu Qianxiu held the photo like it was a treasure as he walked out of the photo studio. If it was said that he had come to cause trouble for Chu Tian a day ago, the current Gu Qianxiu already had a trace of respect for Chu Tian. Not to mention his character, he was indeed an inventor worthy of respect. Gu Qianxiu felt that he was too lucky. He had met Mr. Yu, who was as knowledgeable as the sea of stars a few days ago, and now, he had met Chu Tian, who had bold and imaginative ideas. If Mr. Yu was a proper person, then Chu Tian was a genius. One proper and one strange. It truly made countless scholars blush with shame. Gu Qianxiu asked, "You didn't hurt Chu Tian, right?" "Sir Gu can be assured." Li Hu patted his chest and said, "Captain Chao only knocked him unconscious and is currently being closely guarded. We're just waiting for Sir to deal with him." "All right, we'll go now." The two of them walked to the secret courtyard. Li Hu stopped in front of the courtyard. Strange. Where are the surrounding people? Gu Qianxiu jumped into the air and landed in the middle of the courtyard. There was not a single person around, and there was a strange aura surrounding him. This is bad, something had happened. When Gu Qianqiu had this thought, a source energy array suddenly appeared on the ground. Gu Qianqiu's position was right in the middle of the source energy array, and a strong binding force instantly suppressed Gu Qianqiu's spirit energy. Quickly go! Catch that bastard! A large group of people appeared from all directions. The ones leading them were Boss Yu and Chen Bingyu, as well as several illustrious Soul Realm experts. Li Hu knew that his captain was in danger when he saw this scene. He immediately angrily shouted, "Rats! Do you know who this person in front of you is?" You are." When Yun Tianhe came out, he saw Gu Qianqiu with a single glance. He felt his body tremble and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. The great scholar Gu Qianqiu. Yun Tianhe opened his mouth. Everyone was taken aback. What? This old man was the great scholar Gu Qianqiu. Everyone was attacking the most famous old scholar in southern Xia? It's over, they had really poked the hornet's nest. The tens of thousands of scholars in southern Xia would condemn them, they would curse them to death. Although they knew that the people sent by Imperial City were not small, they never thought that it would be this great deity. Li Hu angrily roared, "You bunch of ants, since you recognize the great scholar, why haven't you given up yet?" Everyone present, including Boss Yu, hesitated. Chu Tian had already prepared a trap. With everyone's strength, even if they were facing one of the 8 marquises, they would still be able to capture him. Only the person they were facing was the great scholar Gu Qianqiu. Did they really have to make a move against him? Gu Qianqiu was secretly happy. Having a big reputation was very useful. He cleared his throat with a dignified expression. "Put down your weapons." At this time, "What fart? Capture him." The small courtyard's doors opened and a young man came out. He angrily stared at Gu Qianqiu as he roared, "I didn't hesitate to teach you. Old man, you actually came to harm me." Li Hu, Boss Yu, and Yun Tianhe were instantly petrified. Chu Tian was calling the great scholar an old man? This was insulting all the scholars in the country. The saliva of these scholars could drown Chu Tian to death. You are. When Gu Qianqiu saw Chu Tian, not only was he not angry, his old face turned red and his eyes almost popped out. "You what you?" Chu Tian ordered. "Capture this ungrateful old man." Chen Bingyu was the first to make a move, knocking Gu Qianqiu to the ground with a single palm. The others saw that things had reached this point and could not be saved, so they charged forward and tied up the great scholar. "It's a misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding." When Gu Qianqiu was being carried away, he loudly shouted, Oh no, Mr. Chu, give me a chance to explain." Chapter 263. Chao Bao was locked in a secret room. These royal knights never would have dreamed that they would fall in this kind of place. But with the status of a royal knight and the great scholar's support, they could at least keep their lives. Even if Chu Tian was bold, he would not dare kill a royal knight. Even if Chu Tian dared to touch a royal knight, he would not dare touch the great scholar. Gu Qianqiu was a household name in southern Xia. Normal children might not know who the 8 marquises were, but they would definitely know the great scholar's name. Gu Qianqiu had been studying in various countries for over 20 years, bringing back large amounts of books for southern Xia. Half of the textbooks in the 8 states' academies were brought over by the great scholar from a large country or even an empire. If the great scholar did not contribute to southern Xia, where would there be so many successful scholars? If the great scholar did not lay the foundation for southern Xia, where would there be so many rich merchants? Gu Qianqiu had raised the level of talismans, alchemy, and weapon refining in southern Xia by a level. Gu Qianqiu's contributions to the kingdom could not be compared to any other marquis, so although he did not have a title, he still surpassed a title. Even the strong southern summer king had to be respectful, personally giving Gu Qianqiu the title of great scholar. For many years, Gu Qianxiu had been the benchmark for scholars in southern Xia. The great scholar's knowledge was the highest level in the kingdom. Every time there was a natural disaster, Gu Qianxiu would always be able to solve it. Every time there was a difficult problem, Gu Qianxiu would always have an effective solution. If anyone dared to go against Gu Qianxiu, they would not just go against the kingdom. This was simply going against the millions of scholars and citizens of southern Xia. His intelligence was deserted, and the saliva of the people was enough to drown him 8-10 times. Pay! Qiao Bao took off the cloth covering his mouth. Everyone hold on, these idiots still don't know that the great scholar has personally come to Central State. As long as the great scholar reveals his name, how can these rats be arrogant? Just you wait, we'll definitely get back at them. Before he finished, sounds of fighting could be heard from the courtyard outside. In less than 5 minutes, 2 tied-up men were thrown in. One of them was the vice-captain of the Royal Knights, Tiger Li, and the other was a plain-looking old man in a grey robe. Qiao Bao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Grand Scholar! Gu Qianxiu was tightly tied up, and it was unknown who had punched him a few times. Even his face was swollen, and he had a sorry appearance. How could he be the dignified and respected great scholar? Had the people of the Central Plains gone crazy? Was there no one who could recognize the grand scholar? The respected #1 scholar of the southern summer country was actually receiving this kind of treatment. Do you know what you have done? Qiao Bao and the others roared with righteous indignation. Do the people of the Central State want to incite the wrath of the world? Qiao Bao, don't talk too much. Gu Qianxiu sat up. Not only was he not enraged, he had a depressed look on his face. This loss was not undeserved. This girl is really ruthless. My old bones were almost smashed into pieces. Gu Qianxiu's eyes fell onto Chen Bingyu. I know you are Chu Tian's bodyguard. Where is Chu Tian? I have something to say to him. Gu Qianxiu did not know how to describe his current mood. Pleasant surprise? Or depression? No matter who it was, they could not understand that the foreign merchant Mr. Yu was actually Central State's Chu Tian. If he knew this earlier, even with Gu Qianxiu's courage, he would not have dared to bring people to Central State to cause trouble for Chu Tian. Gu Qianxiu had been with Chu Tian for a few days in Qing State, and he knew that this person was a bit arrogant, but Gu Qianxiu was sure that he was not an evil person and he was not someone who sought fame. There was definitely a problem with the superstitions sent by Imperial City. Pa-ta! A strong searchlight was turned on. Gu Qianxiu narrowed his eyes. The crowd in front of him moved a bit and a chair was placed in front of him. A person sat down on the chair and crossed his legs. Because of the light, he could not see the other side's expression, but a familiar voice sounded in his ears. Speak, who are you and how many people are there? You can kill me, but you can't humiliate me. Qiao Bao was filled with rage. The respected Royal Knight Captain was actually being interrogated like a criminal. If you have the guts, then kill me. Brat, you really have guts. I like people with guts. Chu Tian waved his hand at old Fifth Yu. Drag him to the side and beat him for me. Several giant shark gang members directly dragged Qiao Bao out and began to beat him up. They really dared to beat him. Was the central province really occupied by a group of bandits? Stop, we can talk. Gu Qianxiu quickly said, whatever you want to know, I'll tell you. Then quickly say it. These people are the royal palace's Griffin Knights, directly listening to the royal family. They were specially sent to Central State for this old man to lead. There are a total of 100 of them. The others and the Griffin mounts should be waiting outside the city. Qiao Bao revealed a look of disbelief. Great scholar you! Where did the great scholar's iron bones go? How could he give in so easily? Chu Tian then asked, with just you people? No, the royal knights are in charge of this operation. Gu Qianxiu did not hide anything. Southern State's Western Marquis is already rushing over to Central State and will personally send Your Excellency back to Imperial City. Chu Tian's nose went crooked from anger. Damn, who came up with this vicious idea? Who doesn't know that I have a grudge with the Western Marquis, and wants the Western Marquis to send me back to Imperial City? It's more like sending me to the heavens. Your Excellency Chu Tian, Gu Qianxiu quickly explained, this is all a misunderstanding. This old man really did not know your identity, otherwise I wouldn't have come up with this plan to offend you. His words didn't just stun the royal knights. Yun Tianhe and the others were also stunned. What? The great scholar knew Chu Tian? This old man can understand that you are filled with dissatisfaction right now. But seeing that you are a royal knight, there is no need to bother with these people. Gu Qianxiu said this and suddenly looked at Yun Tianhe. Old Yun, why aren't you saying a few words for me? I, Gu Qianxiu, always keep my words. You should know that I will not go back on them. Chao Bao and the other royal knights were speechless. What was the great scholar afraid of? Even in front of the Southern Summer King, he dared to glare at them, but now he was acting like a yes-man in front of these people, even looking like he was afraid of them. That's right, the royal proclamation. Gu Qianxiu pointed with his eyes. The royal proclamation is in my pocket, and there is also the calm martial ruler's secret letter. As long as you read it, you will understand what is going on. I was only given a temporary order to lead the royal knights, so I did not know anything about this before. I did not have any ill intentions towards you. Chen Bingyu brought out the royal proclamation and the secret letter. Chu Tian first took a look at the royal proclamation and saw that it was indeed the Southern Summer King's orders. He wanted Gu Qianxiu to cooperate with the Western Marquis and bring him to trial. The calm martial ruler's secret letter? Chu Tian opened the secret letter and tightly knit his brows. This letter listed all of Chu Tian's crimes and was even more detailed than the royal proclamation. It even mentioned the personal grudges between Chu Tian and the great scholar. If it wasn't mentioned, Chu Tian would have already forgotten about it. When Chu Tian first came to Central State City, in order to quickly attract the Yun family's attention, he had created a show of causing havoc in the Yun sect. At that time, there were several important scholars in the Yun sect, and the show was Chu Tian's former student. How could Chu Tian care about these small characters? He didn't even remember what he said in the past, and the show was not respectful to the great scholar. This was a bit thought-provoking. The calm martial ruler gave this letter to the great scholar. Wasn't he trying to borrow a knife to kill him? It was a good thing that Chu Tian had met Gu Qianxiu in Central State and taught him quite a bit of knowledge. Gu Qianxiu did not dare make a move against him now, otherwise it would be hard to say what the result would be. Could Shin Fengho have failed to persuade the calm martial ruler? Or perhaps the calm martial ruler wanted to kill him. Was he trying to get rid of Chu Tian and take the secret of the source energy weapons for himself? If there was no problem with this letter, no matter how one looked at it, Chu Tian's situation was not good. The Southern Summer King was dissatisfied with Chu Tian, and the three rulers could not tolerate Chu Tian, so how could miracle commerce still have a foothold in Southern Xia? Gu Qianxiu saw that Chu Tian was a bit serious and immediately said, Sir, Chu Tian does not need to worry, this old man has quite a bit of status in Imperial City. As long as this old man vouches for you, the king will definitely pardon you. Even if you have a grudge with the three rulers, they will still give me a bit of face. Chu Tian, if the calm martial ruler cannot be relied on, the great scholar can help you. Yun Tianhe said to Chu Tian in a low voice, This old man has a bit of friendship with me, he can be trusted. The great scholar's strength could not compare to the three rulers and his influence could not compare, but his influence could be compared. At least he could give Chu Tian more help than a normal marquis. Chu Tian was a bit hesitant. Leader, chairman. A giant shark gang member quickly charged in. This is a bad matter. Old Fifth Yu knit his brows. What is going on? Our brothers have discovered a large number of warships on the Four States Lake. It seems like the Southern State Army is heading towards Central State. With a large momentum, I'm afraid they do not have good intentions. What? Southern State Army. The royal proclamation clearly told the Western Marquis to escort you back to Imperial City. It didn't tell him to mobilize the Southern State Army. Gu Qianqiu's face slightly sunk. Chu Tian, if it really is the Southern State Army, then Central State situation is not good. Believe this old man, I'll think of a way to help you block them. Chu Tian gave a laugh. The Western Marquis hates me deeply. I'm afraid he won't give the great scholar any face. At the very least, I have 100 royal knights to help you. Qiao Bao shouted when he heard this. Great scholar, our mission is clearly. Don't forget, the royal proclamation clearly states that you are under my control and that you have to listen to this old man's orders. Gu Qianqiu faced these royal knights and quickly regained his dignity. Do you want to go against the royal proclamation? This Chu Tian is not our enemy. Gu Qianqiu said to Chu Tian, we don't have much time left. Chu Tian hesitated before nodding. All right, then I'll believe you this time. Go and release them. Immediately close the city gates and prepare for battle. After Qiao Bao was released, he took out a strange flute from his chest. He forcefully blew it into the sky and a sharp sound pierced through the clouds. In less than 10 minutes, there was a clear cry in the sky as over 100 griffins slowly flew into Central State City. The Central State citizens were all shocked. These were the legendary griffins. Each one was a level 2 demon beast, and these mounts were worth several tens of millions of gold coins. The Griffin Knights were the most mysterious and powerful army in southern Xia. Now that the Griffin Knights had appeared in Central State City, how could the people not be shocked? Following this, all the city gates were closed and the citizens were asked to enter the city. The city guards were quickly mobilized. It seemed like something big was about to happen in Central State City. Chapter 264. On the vast Four States Lake, there was a strong wind that blew away the mist. A large mass of black flags appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Dong, dong, dong. The war drums were like thunder. Killing intent soared into the sky. A cold pressure covered the skies of Central State City. Central State City had been built for several hundred years without any danger, so this kind of scene had never been seen before. Almost everyone was stunned. Several hundred ships arrived at the port, with most of them being medium to large ships. This was a large army of at least 100,000 people. The citizens of Central State City were all stunned. This is the Southern State Army. What is the Southern State Army doing in Central State? The Southern State Army did not give the Central State people any time to react or question them. The decks opened up and small boats filled with soldiers charged onto the shore like ants. War horses neighed and flags flew in the air as countless cavalry disembarked. Almost in an instant, the Central State City docks were occupied. Countless armored soldiers holding blades in their hands were like a rising tide as they charged towards Central State City. When had the citizens ever seen an army pressing down on a city before? This was the rhythm of a battle. The Southern State Army had suddenly attacked and Central State City was not prepared at all. A warning horn sounded in Central State City, and the Central State soldiers began to set up defenses. Thousands of archers quickly ran onto the city walls as rows of snow-white arrows aimed at the Southern State Army. Stop! If you take another step forward, we'll shoot. The Southern State Army didn't care about the warnings from the Central State Army. In a very short period of time, they had already organized their formation. The Central State Army was covered in a cold sweat. They had come prepared, but the Central State Army wasn't prepared enough. Even if it was a head-on confrontation, the Central State Army couldn't compare to the Southern State Army in all aspects. Central State was surrounded by no danger, so there were not many soldiers stationed there, and they did not have any battle experience. The Southern State Army was not the same. The Southern State Army was on the south side of southern Xia and had the heavy responsibility of guarding the border. Whether it was the quality of the army or battle experience, the Central State Army could not compare. If they really fought, their chances of winning were very slim. At this moment, a white-bearded old man riding a griffin flew out of Central State City, quickly appearing in the sky above the Southern State Army. He loudly shouted, "The leader in front, is it the Western Marquis, Shangguan Hong?" "That's me." The Western Marquis was riding a giant Southern barbarian battle rhinoceros that was covered in heavy armor. When he saw Gu Qianqiu on the griffin, he gave a few laughs. "So it's the great scholar. I never thought that you would be faster than me. Since it's like this, I ask you to help this Marquis take down that thief Chu Tian." Gu Qianqiu jumped up and fell down from several dozen meters in the air. It was like a cannonball hitting the ground, causing the surrounding Southern State Knights to be shocked. The Western Marquis has probably transferred over half of the Southern State elites. This battle array is just too big. Zhongzhou County is the territory of the kingdom. If the army barges into the Zhongzhou County, it will ignite the flames of war and start a civil war. I'm afraid this is against the laws of the kingdom. The great scholar's words are wrong. Central State is already in chaos and Southern State is here to help, so how could there be a civil war? The Western Marquis looked in the direction of Central State City and took out a golden token from his chest. "Not to mention, I am under the orders of my king and the refined ruler to capture that traitor Chu Tian. With the king's order here, who dares stop me?" Gu Qianqiu's brows knit even tighter. "Since you have the king's order, why are you mobilizing the army? That thief Chu Tian is arrogant. The last royal envoy was crippled by him. Such a deranged person, I don't think he'll just obediently wait to be captured. This thief has a strong influence in Central State, so if he is not seriously ill, it will be hard to deter him." The Western Marquis righteously said, "You should know that Chu Tian has secretly swallowed the three great families of Central State and has already made a name for himself. If he resists, this Marquis can only lead the army to attack." The Western Marquis did not want to listen to this bookworm's nonsense. Chu Tian crippling the royal envoy is a rebellion. "Listen to my orders, advance." Woo woo. The Southern State Army also blew their horns. The army formed several formations and spread out on the plains. The siege weapons were spread out, as if they could attack Central State City at any moment. A strong sense of oppression spread out, as if it was going to crush Central Continent City. The Central State citizens were all scared silly. The Southern State Army was very famous among the 8 states of the Southern Summer Country. Southern State bordered the Southern Barbarians, and the Southern State Army had been fighting with the Barbarians for a long time, so they had rich battle experience. There were several battalions that were directly recruited from the Barbarians, which was the one and only Barbarian heavy infantry battalion in the 8 states. The Southern Barbarians were a branch of the human race. The Barbarians were all tall and sturdy, with an average height of around 2 meters. They had jet black skin, strong muscles, tough bones, and a cruel nature. These were the characteristics of the barbarians. Even if these barbarian soldiers did not cultivate, they could rely on brute force to fight against the kingdom's 5th body refinement layer soldiers. If they were properly trained and cultivated, their battle strength would be very terrifying, so they could form the strongest heavy-armored assault team. The Western Marquis had even brought the barbarian army. They were completely prepared to attack the city this time. The Western Marquis had waited for this chance for a long time. After all, the Western Marquis' successor, Shangguan Feichen, had been half crippled by Chu Tian, so it could be imagined how angry the Western Marquis was. Back in Thunder State, the Western Marquis had the thought of killing Chu Tian, but who would have thought that Chu Tian would use some unknown method to kill the Abyss Demon and obtain the support of the Thunder State citizens? Adding in Shen Fengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis, these 2 cold marquises, the Western Marquis could not make a move. Who would have thought that Chu Tian would seek death? He had actually crippled the envoy sent by the Imperial City. The refined ruler took this chance to give the Western Marquis a chance. The Western Marquis understood the refined ruler's meaning. This was a chance for him to take revenge. As for leading the army into Central State, one was to eradicate Chu Tian's influence, while the other was to take over the miracle commerce. How could the Southern Summer King care about a nameless soldier? The Western Marquis could use a mistake or Chu Tian's strong resistance to kill him. Like this, the hatred in his heart would be resolved. Citizens of Central State City, listen up. The Western Marquis rode the Southern barbarian rhinoceros to the front of Central State City. He held a giant pen in his hand as he pointed at Central State City and shouted, "I am the Southern State Marquis, Shangguan Hong. I have led the Southern State elites here today to suppress the traitor Chu Tian. The citizens and soldiers in the city are innocent, so if you open the gates and hand them over, this Marquis will heavily reward you." Saying this, the Western Marquis' voice changed and became sharp. "If anyone dares to resist, they will be punished the same as the traitor Chu Tian. All the Central State soldiers will not be able to escape punishment. If it's light, they will be exiled, and if it's heavy, they will be executed. The Central State citizens will also be implicated." Gu Qianxiu's expression changed. Good Western Marquis. He didn't even attack the city and wanted to attack the heart? The Western Marquis had the royal decree, so he had a reason to attack. The Southern State army of 100,000 was enough to make a normal person wet their pants, so the Central State army could not stop the Southern State army. The Western Marquis words could cause a riot in the Central State army and the Central State citizens. At that time, the Western Marquis would not even need to personally attack the city, and Central State City would be in chaos. No one wanted to go against the royal decree. No one wanted to be caught in the crossfire. The 100,000 soldiers took this chance to shout out in unison, "Traitor Chu Tian, die! Traitor Chu Tian, die! Traitor Chu Tian, die!" This voice pierced through the sky like thunder, exploding in the skies of Central State City. Shangguan Hong was filled with pride. The Western Marquis was representing the royal army. When had the country bumpkins of Central State City ever seen such a big scene? The Western Marquis was one of the 8 marquises of the Southern Summer Country, guarding the southern border. His fame was spread far and wide, even surpassing the half-retired Shin Fengho. Today, he was leading the army to shout out in front of the city to suppress Chu Tian's momentum, causing the Central State citizens to panic. Once the Central State citizens panicked, they would be afraid of being implicated and would use Chu Tian as a scapegoat. "This Marquis will give you 3 minutes. If you don't open the city gates in 3 minutes, this Marquis will attack the city with 10,000 arrows, and the casualties will be decided by the heavens. After the battle, everyone will be punished, so you better think this through. Think about your families. Do you really want to drag your entire family to be buried with a single traitor?" Shangguan Hong increased his bargaining chip. "You don't want to open the city gates? When the 10,000 arrows fall, you will be buried with Central State City. This world always belonged to the strong. Even if he caused a large amount of casualties in Central State City, no one could do anything to him. First, Shangguan Hong was one of the 8 marquises. Second, Shangguan Hong had the support of the 3 rulers. And third, Shangguan Hong was using the royal army's banner. A ruthless slaughter was not a big deal. Central State City was silent for a few seconds before a wave of voices exploded out like a tsunami. "Chu Tian is not guilty. Chu Tian is not guilty. Chu Tian is not guilty." Central State City erupted with a roar that was even louder than the 100,000 Southern State soldiers. It was like a giant wave that drowned out the Southern Summer Army's momentum. These were the shouts of the several million citizens of Central State City. What did 100,000 Southern State soldiers count for? They were nothing in front of the several million citizens of Central State City. The Western Marquis was stunned and the Southern Summer Army was stunned. This kind of giant formation did not scare Central State City, but rather it incited the resistance of the Central State citizens. We vow to defend Central State to the death. We vow to defend Central State to the death. Southern summer dogs, scram out of Central State for me. The people of Central State City were filled with excitement as their voices became louder and louder. There were even some people who took out loudspeakers to shout. Under this kind of overwhelming momentum, the Southern State Army was actually being suppressed. Even an officer with a bit of a brain could see this. The soldiers and civilians were united. This city would be hard to take. If they fought a hard battle, the Southern State Army would not be able to win. The hearts of the people are like this, what else can I say? Gu Qianxiu was moved as he emotionally said, Western Marquis, retreat. Good traitor Chu Tian actually buying the hearts of the people like this. This will only make it more obvious that he is rebelling. The Western Marquis gritted his teeth as he said, This Marquis will not let him grow. All soldiers listen to my orders, prepare to attack the city. The Western Marquis is truly impressive. A young man slowly walked onto the city walls and held a loudspeaker as he shouted at the dense Southern State Army, For this little brat, you're sending out an army. This little brat is truly fortunate. Chu Tian, you still have the guts to come out. The Western Marquis said to Gu Qianxiu beside him. Great scholar, Chu Tian has already appeared, what are you waiting for? Immediately send out the royal palace's knights to capture him. Central State City was still the main city of a state. This city was not that easy to break through. However, if they had the help of the Griffin Knights, the situation would be completely different. The Griffin Knights were an aerial assault unit and they had a very strong battle strength, enough to break through the gates of Central State City. Great scholar, what are you doing? The Western Marquis Shangguan Hong angrily said, The traitor is here, how can we not kill him? Does the great scholar want to protect the traitor? You bastard! Do you know what you are doing? The veins on Gu Qianxiu's forehead popped out as he roared out, What does a fool with a head full of mud like you know? If you don't retreat, don't blame this old man for not giving you face. Others might be afraid of the refined ruler, but this old man is not. Chapter 265. Whether it was the Central State Army or the Southern State Army, they were all stunned at this moment. In front of the Southern State Army of over 100,000 people, the great scholar had actually pointed at the Western Marquis' nose and scolded him. This scene was something no one expected, even Chu Tian and the others did not expect. The 8 marquises were the pillars that supported the 8 states of Southern Summer. Gu Qianxiu was the benchmark of Southern Xia's scholars. The 2 of them had great influence in Southern Xia, so they should have avoided direct conflict. They never thought that the great scholar would not give them any face and would scold the Western Marquis, calling him an idiot. Southern Xia was about to be thrown into chaos. The Western Marquis was not a normal marquis. He was a noble marquis born in the Shangguan family. Gu Qianxiu was not a normal scholar. Although he did not have a title or a noble bloodline, he was the great tutor of Southern Xia, the first minister of the Dongfang family, and the #1 scholar of Southern Xia. He was a mountain of wisdom in the academic world. Even if he did not have any power, his influence made it so that no nobles dared to look down on him. He did not have a title, but he was on the same level as the 8 marquises. If Gu Qianxiu publicly praised a person, that person would immediately become famous throughout the country, becoming the guest of countless nobles and being chased after by countless scholars. If he publicly criticized a person, that person would become the target of all the scholars in the world, finally losing their reputation. This was the influence of the great scholar. Now he was scolding the Western Marquis in front of countless people. If this matter were to be spread, the Western Marquis would never be able to raise his head again. This intellectual leader was not someone to be trifled with. His words and writing could defeat an army of 100,000, even the three great clans had to give him some respect. But the three great clans were not easy to deal with. The Shangguan family was only inferior to the Dongfang family, so how could the refined ruler swallow this? Good. The Western Marquis, Shangguan Hong, had never received this kind of treatment before, so of course he was filled with rage. This Marquis respected the great scholar in vain and gave you face. But you are using the halo of the great scholar and the glory of Southern Xia's scholars to openly oppose the Southern Summer King, openly defy the royal decree, and openly shield the traitor. Do you really think that no one dares to touch you because you are the great scholar? When did this old man defy the royal decree? The king has written clearly that Chu Tian is to be escorted to royal city, yet you are obstructing him in every possible way. Are you not going against the king's order? I stopped the war, but I never stopped Chu Tian from going to King City. Instead, it was you who cared about the king's orders. It's nothing more than making use of the king's order to kill someone. It's precisely in order to protect the king's order and to send the person safely to royal city that this old man absolutely cannot let Chu Tian fall into your hands. You, the Western Marquis, has forcefully twisted the royal proclamation and sent troops to invade Central State, treating the lives of millions of citizens as nothing. He has tarnished the royal family, shamed the three great families, and made the hearts of the Southern Xia people cold. If Central State City was breached, the common people would cry out. At that time, the people would be filled with resentment and Central State would fall into chaos. Would you be able to take responsibility for the country? Not to mention holding the royal proclamation and the royal token, even if I had to face the Southern Summer King, this old man would fight to the end. This Marquis is only capturing the traitors. How is this causing chaos in the country? The Grand Scholar is just trying to scare us. One traitor after another. Chu Tian has committed treason. Do you have any proof? Looking down on the royal family and heavily injuring the special envoy, do you still need proof? Without any proof, you've sent an army to attack the city for a personal grudge. Gu Qianxiu blew his beard as he angrily roared out, "The blood of the Southern Summer soldiers can only be shed on the battlefield, and the lives of the Southern Summer soldiers can only be sacrificed against foreign enemies. This is not the war-hound plains, this is not the southern border, this is not a battlefield, this is Central State. This is the prosperous Central State, this is the Central State with countless citizens, and this is the Central State where the Southern Xia army is stationed. When did the Southern Xia army start killing each other? Do you not feel any shame for starting this kind of war? You are a marquis of a region." These words were filled with vigor. Chu Tian was very satisfied watching this from the city walls. The Western Marquis and the great scholar arguing, this kind of scene was rarely seen. Meng Qingwu was very shocked in her heart. She did not know why the famous great scholar would actually help Chu Tian like this. Meng Yingying said with a smile, "This old grandpa's quarrel is very good. Gu Qianxiu is the most famous scholar in Southern Xia." Yun Tianhe stroked his beard and said with a laugh, "This kind of arguing skill is the basic skill of a scholar, not to mention someone like him who spends most of his time outside." The great scholar's accusations were like a bucket of shit being slapped on the Western Marquis' face. The Western Marquis was about to go crazy from anger. How preposterous! Chu Tian is the one who is causing chaos in the country. I only know that after Central State had Chu Tian, the poor could make a living, the merchants could make a profit, and the citizens could live in peace, becoming richer and more prosperous than before. Once the Western Marquis came to Central State, there was chaos and there was no peace, even endless bloodshed. The great scholar did not even think before speaking, his mouth was as sharp as a knife. "Tell me, who is the one causing chaos in the country?" The Western Marquis had already lost his patience. He knew that he could not beat a scholar with words, so he asked one last time, For a single Chu Tian, does the great scholar really want to become enemies with the Shangguan family? A single strand of hair from Chu Tian is worth 10,000 times more than a mere marquis like you. Gu Qianqiu's attitude was very firm. He did not leave any room for negotiation. This was all done for Chu Tian to see. Gu Qianqiu was fully aware of Miracle Commerce's strength. This was a company that could change the fate of the kingdom and even affect the entire continent. Just based on this point, Miracle Commerce could not be destroyed. What Gu Qianqiu did not expect was that the founder of Miracle Commerce, Chu Tian, was the genius that helped Qing State solve the beast disaster. He had also obtained news that Chu Tian had not only solved Qing State's problem, he had also solved Thunder State's problem. The value of this person could not be measured. The knowledge that this person had was enough to change the entire continent. This stupid Western marquis, calling him a traitor here and there, did he know how dangerous this was? If Chu Tian was forced to rebel, what benefits would it bring to Southern Xia? Kill him? Not to mention the price they would have to pay, the world would lose a genius and Southern Xia would lose a master alchemist. Not kill him? If Chu Tian hated Southern Xia, it would have a disastrous result. From the people's support of Miracle Commerce in Central State, Chu Tian had the ability to cause Central State to rebel. Even if Central State failed and Chu Tian escaped somewhere else, in just a few years, he would be able to crush Southern Xia. In order to prevent this from happening, Gu Qianqiu did not hesitate to break off relations with the Western marquis. Gu Qianqiu was the kingdom's tutor. Although it was not a real position, he still represented Southern Xia, so he could at least ensure that he did not become enemies with Chu Tian. This marquis does not have time to waste with you, the royal order is here. The Western marquis, Shangguan Hong, raised his command token high up. Listen to my order, begin the siege and kill Chu Tian's traitors. Anyone who dares to stop you will be punished as a traitor. Shangguan Hong threw caution to the wind. Wasn't it just a great scholar? Today he had insulted the Shangguan family, so he would definitely fall out with the Shangguan family. If he retreated because of the great scholar's influence, where would the Shangguan family's face go? Since things had reached this point, he could only brace himself. Attack the city! Attack the city! Shangguan Hong raised his command flag high up. The drums sounded all around them, and the bugle horn sounded out, sounding like the roar of a giant beast. Southern State's heavy infantry formed a square formation, charging at Central State City with their shields raised. Good! Gu Qianqiu jumped high up and grabbed the Griffin Knight's leg to return to Central State City. Then let's fight! Royal Knights, listen to my order. Defend the kingdom's city to the death. Li Hu's expression was a bit ugly. Captain, this. The other royal knights all had looks of hesitation. On one side was the Western Marquis with the refined ruler behind him, and on the other side was the Southern Summer great scholar Gu Qianqiu. They could not offend either of them. Didn't you hear the order? Cao Bao tightly clenched his fist. Go, defend Central State City. Cao Bao could become one of the royal knight captains because he was not a normal brute. He had lived in Imperial City for many years, so he knew the great scholar's character. There had to be a reason for the great scholar's strange reaction. Cao Bao did not know the reason, but if the great scholar did not hesitate to fall out with the Shangguan family, what else could Cao Bao do? First, the royal proclamation ordered the royal knights to listen to Gu Qianqiu. Second, Gu Qianqiu had the Dongfang family's background. Not only was he the Southern Summer great scholar, he was also the Dongfang family's first minister. The royal knights were loyal to the royal family, and the royal family was the Dongfang family. Could Cao Bao help the Shangguan family deal with the minister? Gu Qianqiu had a high status in the Dongfang family, and if he left in a fit of anger, the Dongfang family would suffer the greatest loss. The three great families had a competitive relationship, so the Shangguan family and the Nangong family were happy to see this happen. If they lost Gu Qianqiu, How could the Southern Summer King forgive them? Since they would offend someone, they would choose to offend the Western Marquis. Countless heavy-armored soldiers were moving forward with heavy steps as they charged at the central state city gate. This was an army recruited by the barbarian tribes, and they were all barbarian warriors. Their battle strength was not something normal soldiers could compare to, so the city gates could not stop them for long. Kill! 100 Griffin Knights flew into the air, and let out a clear cry that shook the world. Royal Knights? The Western Marquis forcefully waved his flag. Divine Arrow Camp, shoot! The sound of bowstrings being released came from the Southern State Army. With an ear-piercing whistle, a large wave of arrows covered in spirit energy flew into the air. It was like a swarm of locusts. It was like a rising black cloud. This scene was very spectacular. Quickly, send the order. Chu Tian's expression slightly changed. Have the citizens return to their homes and hide in their basements. They can't come out until the battle is over. This battle was unavoidable. The Southern State Army was too strong. Although they had the Royal Knights led by the great scholar, they could not avoid a bloody battle. Charge! Protect Central State City. Chao Bao descended on the griffin, and the rest of the Royal Knights followed closely behind him. They ignored the dense rain of arrows and charged straight ahead. The griffin gave a long cry. His wings stirred up a gust of wind, instantly forming a protective barrier that bounced off a large number of arrows that got close to him. This group of Royal Knights passed through the rain of arrows without a single casualty, charging at the first wave of heavy-armored soldiers. I want to see how many waves you can block. The Western Marquis gave a cold snort. Continue shooting. The 2nd and 3rd Battalions, move to the left and right flank and protect the attacking troop. The war drums sounded even louder. This time the Southern State Army's main force was coming out in full force. This was an elite army of over 100,000 people. There was no danger on all sides of Central State, and there were not many soldiers stationed there. The Southern State Army's attack on Central State City was very sudden, so Central State City did not have time to send reinforcements. This was not going to be an easy battle. Chapter 266. Since they wanted to fight, then they would fight. The current Central State City would not hand over Chu Tian. From the large nobles to the common people, their interests were all tied to Chu Tian. Once Miracle Commerce fell, it would be an incomparably heavy blow to Central State. Central State had finally regained its order. How could the people just watch this happen? Archer Camp, listen to my order. Our target is the rear army. Xiong Wuji stood on the city walls and loudly shouted, "Fire!" Central Continent City also let out a wave of sharp whistling sounds. Countless arrows soared into the sky like dark clouds and then scattered outside the city walls, mainly landing in the middle and rear of the Southern Continent Army. Attack with all your might. Kill those who delay retreating. The Southern State Army was very fierce. They used their weapons to block the arrows while firing back. Casualties began to appear on both sides. This battle had already begun. The barbarian heavy-armored vanguard arrived in front of the city gate. Several hundred barbarian heavy-armored soldiers pushed an incomparably large battering ram, slamming into the Central State City gates with an unstoppable momentum. Hong dong! A heaven-shaking muffled sound rang out, simply deafening. A terrifying shock wave erupted, sending the Central State soldiers behind the city gates flying. They all spat out blood as they fell to the ground with heavy injuries. That heavy and thick city gates instantly caved in from the impact. Keep smashing! The Southern State Vanguard commander loudly shouted, "Blast open the city gates!" The Central State Army blocked their way. After a group of people were sent flying, another group of people came forward. The consequences of the Southern State Army attacking Central State City could not be imagined. The bustling Central State City would be plundered by the flames of war and would change beyond recognition. Perhaps even the Southern Summer King would not have thought that Central State City would not hesitate to start a war to protect Chu Tian. At this moment, the Griffin Knights charged forward with Qiao Bao leading the charge. The Griffin's incomparably large claws grabbed the Southern State Vanguard commander. This Southern State Vanguard commander was not a normal person. When he was grabbed by the Griffin, he immediately stabbed his sword at the Griffin. Die. Qiao Bao was a step faster. The moment the Griffin grabbed the commander, a 3-meter-long silver lance pierced through the commander's skull and killed him instantly. The other Griffin riders fell down like battle hammers. The heavily armored soldiers were violently smashed by the Griffins and immediately fell into chaos. One by one, they were sent flying or stabbed to death by the lances of the paladins. Damn Royal Knights! The Western Marquis angrily roared. Fill them up! Whoever can open the city gates will be rewarded with 1,000,000 gold. Row after row of heavy armored soldiers surged forward like a tidal wave. The Griffins flapped their wings and shot out wind blades. Qiao Bao was also constantly brandishing his lance. He was already covered in blood from the battle. There were too many Southern State soldiers and they couldn't kill them all. Even a true soul expert would run out of spirit energy inside the Griffin. Even the Griffin Knights would not be able to hold out for too long. Li Hu shouted, "Captain, we can't do it anymore." "Damn, has the Western Marquis gone crazy?" Qiao Bao angrily roared. "Does he really want to destroy Central State City?" The Meng Qin Wu sisters were stunned. They had never seen this kind of terrifying battle before. The Southern State Army's battle strength is too strong. Yun Tianhe's face was filled with worry. "I'm afraid we won't be able to hold them back. Once the city walls are broken, the Central State Army will not be able to stop the Southern State Army. Then we'll defend the city walls." Chu Tian gave a cold snort. "Little fox, give them a taste of your strength." The little fox took out a puppet and blew on it. The puppet turned into a miniature hell-fire demon that was covered in flames. The little fox forcefully threw it out and the puppet turned into a green light that charged into the sky. It turned into an incomparably large demon stone that fell down at the city gate. The terrifying strength instantly shattered the battering ram, and several dozen Southern State heavy-armored soldiers around it all died. Roar! A 6-meter-tall giant slowly stood up. Its entire body was made of rock, and it spewed out green flames. Berserk energy poured out from its body, turning into a large wave of flames that instantly knocked down a group of Southern Province soldiers and summoned a large number of little demons. This is... The Western Marquis looked over. Wasn't this the demon from Thunder State? No. That's not right. It looked much weaker, not even a tenth of the Thunder State demon's strength, but it did not lose to the 8 Marquises. The Hell-Fire demon was an elemental demon, so it did not have many weaknesses like normal beings. Arrows did not have any effect on it and the Hell-Fire demon could release flames all over its body, so it was very hard to attack it in close combat. The most important thing was that this monster that had never been seen before had appeared. It was a large shock to the Southern State Army, so it was a blow to their morale. After the Hell-Fire demon appeared, it continued to release flames, forming a wall of flames in front of Central State City. This was the Green Abyss Flame, and the Southern State soldiers did not dare approach it. "Marquis, this monster is too strong, our soldiers are being blocked." "Trash. You're all trash." The Western Marquis loudly roared. "Isn't it just a demon? I can't do it. It can block the Southern State Army, so destroy it for me." As soon as he said this, the Western Marquis personally jumped out and the giant pen in his hand fell into the air. A giant seal slammed into the Hellfire demon, and it was knocked back several steps. The flames on its body were quickly extinguished. The Southern State Army's morale was raised, and they wanted to take this chance to attack. Who would have thought that at this critical moment there would be a cry coming from the 4 states' lake? Military bugle? What is going on? In the hazy mist, a large fleet suddenly appeared. the scale of which was not inferior to the Southern State Army. Ah! Thunder State's Army. Why is the Thunder State Army heading to Central State? The 8 states of the Southern Summer Country all had their own specialties. Thunder State was a giant camp that sent large amounts of elite soldiers to the north every year, so the Thunder State Army's strength could not be underestimated. It was not inferior to the Southern State Army. Chu Tian has saved Thunder State. Now that Central State is in trouble, I, Jiang Xiong, have come to repay this debt. On the largest flagship, Jiang Xiong proudly stood there. My Thunder State has come to repay this debt. My Thunder State has come to repay this debt. Kill, kill, kill. The Thunder State Army's battle cries shook the sky and their morale soared. The Thunder State Army was here to help Chu Tian? What was going on? Chu Tian was also stunned. This was truly unexpected reinforcements. The Golden Arrow Marquis had a good relationship with Shen Fengho. Could it be that Shen Fengho told the Golden Arrow Marquis before he went to Imperial City? Gu Qianxiu was also stunned. Thunder State had also sent troops to Central State. This would definitely shake the world. The Golden Arrow Marquis was still a marquis. Not following the royal order to lead troops into Central State, this was a great taboo. For a single Chu Tian, he did not hesitate to offend Imperial City. The Golden Arrow Marquis understood in his heart that Chu Tian could not fall into the hands of the Shangguan family. Not only would this make Southern Xia lose a universe master, if Chu Tian fell into the Shangguan family's control, the nobles would become even stronger. The Southern Summer 8 marquises were divided into 2 factions. One faction was made up of noble marquises like the flame-departing Marquis, the Western Marquis, and others. They were mainly from the 3 great families or the top families of Imperial City. The other faction was made up of cold race marquises like the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Greenwood Marquis, and others. Shen Fengho was from a large family, but his family had weakened, so he was considered one of the cold race marquises. The cold race had always been in conflict with the nobles. The noble marquises had a natural advantage and had the upper hand in all aspects. The cold race could only work together to stop the nobles from stealing their benefits. There was no doubt that this Chu Tian, who came from a humble background, belonged to the cold race. He would inevitably violate the interests of the nobles as he grew up, so the Golden Arrow Marquis and the other cold race representatives needed someone that could fight against the Imperial City's 3 rulers. The only one that had the ability to do this was Chu Tian. Chu Tian had survived this calamity, and with his skills and talent, it was only a matter of time before he rose up. The Western Marquis' eyes turned red. "Rebel, you're all rebelling." Shangguan Hong had brought the Southern State Army here purely to deter them. He did not want to fight a large battle. He was not a fool. Why would he attack Central State City for no reason? This did not give him any benefits and would instead cause countless people to question him. He only wanted Chu Tian and Chu Tian's miracle commerce. Who would have thought that the great scholar that should have helped him would help Chu Tian instead? Shangguan Hong could only attack the city in his anger. Although attacking the city was a bad plan, Shangguan Hong had confidence in the Southern State Army. Who would have thought that Thunder State would interfere? Western Marquis, immediately surrender. The Golden Arrow Marquis loudly shouted, "Listen to the Southern State Army, you have violated the bottom line of the 8 states by attacking Central State City. If you continue to be stubborn, this Marquis can only join forces with Central State to slaughter you all. We will exterminate the Southern State Rebel Army." Gu Qianxiu seized this chance to say, "The Golden Arrow Marquis has come well. This old man will ask the king for this great merit of saving Central State." When the Golden Arrow Marquis and the Thunder State Army heard that it was the great scholar, they all activated their spirit arrays. They were most worried about the king's punishment, but they never thought that even the great scholar would stand on their side. The great scholar had a very high status in the kingdom. With him speaking out, what did they have to be afraid of? The Southern State Army looked at each other in blank dismay. This is bad. With the great scholar in front and the golden arrow marquis in the back, Central State was impregnable and the city could not be broken. Wanting to take down the city today was an impossible matter. Ignore them. The Western Marquis had already lost all reason. Kill? At worst we'll fight to the death. Once we reach Imperial City, I want to see who's more reasonable. Good Western Marquis, insisting on causing internal strife. The Golden Arrow Marquis gave a cold snort. Thunder State Army, listen to my orders, follow me to the shore to quell the chaos. The Thunder State Army quickly began to disembark, pincer attacking the Southern State Army like a tide. In front of the Southern State Army was Central State City that they couldn't take down in a short amount of time, and behind them was the Thunder State Army that wasn't any weaker than the Southern State Army. Gu Qianxiu loudly shouted, "Griffin Knights, protect Central State." This powerful royal knight once again made a move. The aerial battle strength of over 100 illustrious Soul Realm Griffin Knights could not be underestimated, so it was impossible for the Southern State Army to attack the city walls. There was already no hope for Central State City. Forget it. Now that this matter had become this big, let's see how the Golden Arrow Marquis and Chu Tian get past the Southern Summer King. Pass down my order, the front army will become the back army and the back army will become the front army. Break through the siege and retreat. The Western Marquis ordered the Southern State Army to retreat. The Golden Arrow Marquis saw that the Western Marquis was planning on retreating, so he did not continue attacking. After all, the Southern State Army was the army of Southern Xia, so there was no value in sacrificing themselves in this kind of internal strife. The Southern State Army quickly boarded the ships and the Western Marquis angrily roared out, "Jiang Xiong, Chu Tian, Gu Qianxiu, I want to see how you will face the Southern Summer King's anger. We're retreating." The Southern State warships began to slowly leave. Want to leave? Is it that easy? The Southern State Fleet was less than 10 kilometers away from the Central State Port when the ships began to violently shake. "Marquis, this is bad. Something is attacking the bottom of our ships. Our ships are already leaking, what should we do?" The Southern State Army was in a panic and quite a few soldiers jumped into the water to save themselves. These soldiers were all wearing heavy armor and weapons, and adding in the fact that the Southern State soldiers did not know how to swim, they immediately fell into chaos when they fell into the water. Chu Tian ordered, "Catch them." The giant shark gang began to move. The giant nets that had already been placed in the water were pulled back and they fished up the Southern State soldiers that had fallen into the water. Chapter 267. The Southern State soldiers fell into the water like dumplings, causing the scene to fall into chaos. The giant shark gang members pulled out a giant net and caught a large group of soldiers. They fished them out like fishermen, quickly capturing a large group of them. Chu Tian pointed at the Western Marquis and said, "Capture him for me as well." Boss Yu immediately threw out his fish-bone staff, and a stream of water was gathered by the staff. It turned into a cage around the Western Marquis, forcefully trapping him. Shangguan Hong angrily attacked the water cage. The moment the tip of the brush touched the water prison, a thick surge of spirit energy spread out, causing the originally clear water prison to turn as black as ink. Then it shattered, turning into countless demon droplets that floated in the air, all of them shooting towards Boss Yu. The Western Marquis was in the peak 9th awakened soul layer. Boss Yu was definitely not a match for it, but fighting on the surface of the water wasn't easy. He immediately condensed a water shield, blocking the fatal demonic droplet. "Big brother, I'll help you." The giant shark gang's 5 leaders all had the same cultivation technique and had a tacit understanding with each other. If they worked together, their strength would be enough to fight against one of the Southern Summer 8 Marquises. Not to mention fighting on the water, they had the geographical advantage, and even had the upper hand. "This old man will help you." Gu Qianxiu's griffin descended from the sky and he released his full strength. A golden source spirit appeared behind him, which was a large golden bell. Dang! The large bell exploded with a loud sound. The others could not hear the sound of the bell, but Shangguan Hong felt his body tremble. He was caught off guard and spat out a mouthful of blood. This was because the sound coming from the golden bell was not a normal sound wave, but rather a spiritual wave. That's right, Gu Qianxiu's source spirit was actually of the spiritual attribute. This kind of source spirit was very rare, so spiritual attacks could not be defended against, and it was hard to find a way to defend against it. The Western Marquis was attacked by Gu Qianxiu, and his protective spirit energy collapsed. The 5 Yu brothers charged forward and captured the Western Marquis. The Western Marquis has been captured. Why haven't you surrendered yet? We'll kill the Western Marquis. When the Southern State Army saw that the Western Marquis had been captured, their faces turned pale. They immediately gave up on resisting and surrendered. The Southern State Army's 100,000 soldiers had all become prisoners of war. This was simply sensational. Not only were the 8 provinces' armies having internal strife, the Southern Province's army was also one of the strongest in terms of combat strength. But now 100,000 of their elite soldiers had been captured by the Middle Province. This was more than enough to bring shame to the Southern Province, to Shangguan Hong, and to the Shangguan clan. Chu Tian ordered, confiscate all the weapons and armors of the surrendered soldiers. Build a temporary camp for them and lock them up. When the Western Marquis was sent over tied up, he angrily roared, Chu Tian, do you think you've won? You will die a horrible death for committing such a heinous crime. Damn it! Chu Tian's temper flared up again. Get out of the way! Boss Yu and the others immediately retreated to the side. Chu Tian rushed forward and slapped Shangguan Hong's face. But Shangguan Hong was sent flying more than 2 zhang away. You still dare act this wild after being defeated. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I won't be surnamed Chu. While saying this, Chu Tian rushed forward to grab the Western Marquis and gave him a series of slaps. Don't think that just because you're a Marquis of the Shangguan family, I won't even bat an eye if I want to cripple you. This madman. Perhaps he really would do something crazy. The Western Marquis felt a chill run down his spine. Gu Qianxiu quickly came over. Calm down, calm down. You've finished venting, so I think you should lock him up first. Chu Tian threw the Western Marquis onto the ground and stepped on him a few times. All right, I won't bother with you for the great scholar's sake. Lock him up and serve him well, don't let him restrain you. Everyone was stunned seeing this. Did he know who he was hitting? The Western Marquis of the 8 Southern Summer Marquises. Chu Tian had beaten the Western Marquis in front of everyone. The Golden Arrow Marquis was also shocked by Chu Tian's actions. This fellow really had a violent temper. It was no wonder he could cause such a large mess in Central State. With his fearless personality, even if he knew that the Western Marquis was backed by the refined ruler, he would not give him any face. It was not like he couldn't cripple him on the spot. Just this kind of arrogance was not something a normal person could think of. In for a penny, in for a pound. Since he had offended the Southern Summer King, offended the Shangguan family, and even offended the Nangong family, Chu Tian had nothing to fear. In the end, Central State was still Chu Tian's territory, so at least Shin Fengho would support him. The Golden Arrow Marquis and the Great Scholar were also dragged into this mess. Chu Tian already had enough chips in his hands. No matter how angry the Southern Summer King was, he could not ignore Central State. He could not dismiss Shin Fengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis, and he could not give face to the Great Scholar. Leave for me. Boss Yu's group of 5 brought the bloody and bruised Western Marquis away. This dignified Marquis had been thrown into prison like this. You. Oh no, Mr. Chu. Gu Qianxiu, this famous great scholar of southern Xia, had a nervous expression as he walked in front of Chu Tian. I thought it would be hard to meet you in Qing State, so I missed you. I never thought that in just a few days, although there was a misunderstanding, everything can be solved. This old fellow really didn't know how to speak. It gave Father goosebumps. Chu Tian looked at him with a look of disdain. However, even in this old man's dreams, I never imagined that you were the famous Chu Tian. No wonder you were able to do so many extraordinary things. Did I teach a lesson to your students who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth? You wouldn't hold a grudge, right? No, no, no. Gu Qianqiu quickly shook his head. How could I? With your distinguished self's talent, not to mention this old man's student, even if you taught this old man a lesson, I would not say anything and would even be grateful for your guidance. The great scholar was very humble to Chu Tian. This scene was seen by the citizens and soldiers. This fellow was really the great scholar? He couldn't be an impostor, right? The Southern Summer great scholar was recognized as the #1 scholar and his knowledge was even above Yun Tianhe's. He was proficient in alchemy, talisman techniques, and weapon refining, so he was a mountain in the hearts of millions of scholars in Southern Xia. He was also an authority in Southern Xia's academic world. Not only did Gu Qianqiu have excellent knowledge, he was also a peak expert. He had a cultivation in the peak 9th awakened soul layer, being on the same level as the Southern Summer 8 Marquises. It could be said that if Gu Qianqiu did not spend all his time on academics, he might have broken through to the awakened soul realm and become an existence comparable to the 3 rulers and Southern Xia. Gu Qianqiu's legendary experience was a story told by the people of Southern Xia. When he was young, he left his hometown and traveled across mountains and rivers, using 20 years to study in large countries. He brought back countless advanced knowledge for Southern Xia, laying the foundation for Southern Xia's academic development. Other than that, Gu Qianqiu had solved countless problems for Southern Xia over the past several decades. Similar to the problem in Qing State, Gu Qianqiu had personally taken action each time, finding the most ideal solution. Gu Qianqiu had contributed to Southern Xia, so it was not wrong for him to be made a marquis. Only Gu Qianqiu was a scholar in the end. He wholeheartedly studied and did not like fame, so he rejected the Southern Summer King's rewards several times. Yun Tianhe quickly spoke up for him. The great scholar is a person of noble character and unquestionable integrity. There is no need to worry about this small misunderstanding. I think that if the great scholar knew the cause and effect of this matter would not have happened. Yes, yes, yes. Gu Qianqiu was very grateful to Yun Tianhe for speaking up for him. It's just a misunderstanding, it's just a misunderstanding. Chu Tian did not care about this matter. Gu Qianqiu's true identity as the great scholar was something that Chu Tian had already guessed in Central State. Chu Tian was offending more and more people, and it seemed like he couldn't stop it any longer. Whether it was to strengthen his own influence or to increase the Yun sect's research level, this person had value in recruiting him. If the calm martial ruler was not willing to protect Chu Tian, he could only work with the great scholar. I, Chu Tian, am not a person who doesn't know right from wrong. It's fine if it's just a misunderstanding. Chu Tian pretended to say, "The great scholar helped me today." Chu Tian is very grateful. If the great scholar has any requests, I will do my best to satisfy them. Gu Qianqiu did not even think before saying, "I want to join you and do research together." This was exactly what he wanted. Chu Tian hesitated as he rubbed his chin. I came here with the sincerity of seeking knowledge. Gu Qianqiu swore on the spot, "If I have any selfish intentions, the heavens will punish me." All right. Chu Tian nodded. "I believe in the great scholar's character. From today on, the great scholar will be a member of the Yun sect. Old Yun, bring the great scholar to the Yun sect's research facility." Yun Tianhe was filled with excitement. The Central State city citizens were even more excited. The great scholar was a noble person, but he had actually come to Central State to join the Yun sect and become Chu Tian's subordinate. Chu Tian obtaining the great scholar's support was more useful than any marquis's support. As long as he had the great scholar's support, Chu Tian would not be easy to topple. Great scholar, please. Please, please. Yun Tianhe brought the excited Gu Qianqiu to tour the research facility. Chu Tian walked in front of the Golden Arrow Marquis and cupped his hands. Many thanks for the Golden Arrow Marquis rescue. Chu Tian will remember this grace. Mr. is the great benefactor of Thunder State's citizens, as well as this Marquis great benefactor. Now that my benefactor is in trouble, how could this Marquis just sit back and do nothing? The Golden Arrow Marquis gave a few loud laughs. Congratulations, congratulations. The great scholar is an influential person and has actually become Mr.'s subordinate. Little brat, your luck is not shallow. Hi, this is nothing. It wasn't easy for the Thunder State soldiers to come all the way here. Chu Tian said, Shin Feng Ho is not in Central State, so Miracle Commerce will represent Central State to properly reward everyone. Miracle Commerce's food is the best in the world. My army soldiers are in luck. Today, Miracle Commerce's restaurant will only serve the Thunder State soldiers, so you can eat as much as you want. Good, good. The Thunder State soldiers revealed excited expressions. Miracle Commerce's canned food was already flowing into Thunder State, but it was still a very rare thing and only a few people had the chance to taste it. It was hard for them to come to Central State, so they had to eat as much as they wanted. Chapter 268. Chu Tian held a large banquet to entertain the Thunder State soldiers. Considering that Shen Fengho might not be able to convince the calm martial ruler and Chu Tian's situation was very dangerous, he could only settle for the next best thing. He chose to work with the Golden Arrow Marquis, Shen Fengho, and the great scholar. When Gu Qianqiu came out of the research facility, this 100-year-old man was filled with excitement like he had been injected with chicken blood. The Yun sect's research facility had completely changed Gu Qianqiu's understanding, making him feel like he had wasted his 100 years of life. Now he was truly envious of Yun Tianhe. That old fellow Yun Tianhe could lead this miraculous research team, and he could only watch from the side. He had to join. He had to join. A normal researcher could not satisfy the great scholar, so Gu Qianqiu had to personally lead 1 or 2 projects. The more difficult it was, the more he liked it. For example, the Source Energy Matrix computer. Chu Tian secretly showed the Source Energy weapon to the Golden Arrow Marquis and the great scholar. It was needless to say that the appearance of this era-changing weapon created a large stir for the two of them. It made them believe that their decision to resist the royal decree was not wrong. Chu Tian frankly said to the two of them, this one wanted to work with the calm martial ruler to create a source energy factory, but who would have thought that the calm martial ruler would be so heartless and want to harm me? Since it's like this, it's fine if we don't work together. I will work with the two of you and Shin Fengho, what do you think? The two marquises. A grand tutor. Although he could not compare to the calm martial ruler, once they worked together, it was enough to protect Chu Tian. The marquises had a large amount of autonomy. As the Southern Summer Grand Tutor, Gu Qianqiu had a large amount of authority in Imperial City. This kind of alliance with the central government was enough to ensure the safety of Miracle Commerce's industry. How could the Golden Arrow Marquis and the great scholar reject this? This was simply a meat pie falling from the sky. Finally, the three of them came to an agreement. Chu Tian would provide the technology and the location to create the continent's first source energy weapon factory in Central State City. The great scholar, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and Shin Fengho would be in charge of supporting and escorting them. Gu Qianqiu then suggested, for safety, we can also pull the Qing State Greenwood Marquis in. Not to mention President Chu helping the Greenwood Marquis. The Greenwood Marquis will not reject this kind of good thing. Yes. The Golden Arrow Marquis agreed, Qing State, Thunder State, and Central State, with the three states working together and with the great scholar's protection, this factory will be impregnable. Even if the three great clans want to interfere, they won't be able to touch it. Chu Tian agreed. Although he didn't know much about the Greenwood Marquis, Qing State was a very important place. It was the center of the country's resources, and once the alliance was formed, it would bring many benefits to Miracle Commerce. The few of them reached an agreement. Miracle Commerce held 50% of the shares of the Central State Munitions Factory. The other 50% would be distributed to the partners, including the three marquises and the Great Scholar. The happiest ones right now were the Golden Arrow Marquis and the Great Scholar. The Golden Arrow Marquis had come to save Central State and picked up a large bargain. How could he not be happy? There was no need to mention Gu Qianqiu. He never thought that Mr. Yu would be Chu Tian. This person was truly a rare talent that only appeared once every 10,000 years. Although there was a misunderstanding at first, it was a good thing it was solved later, and he was fortunate enough to become a member of the Yun sect. Since we've come to an agreement, I'll take my leave first. I'll wait for good news from the factory in Thunder State. As long as I can help you in the future, just give me an order. The Golden Arrow Marquis had entered Central State illegally, so he did not dare stay in Central State for too long. So, he withdrew his army the next day. Chu Tian had reached an agreement with several powers, so he did not wait for Shin Fengho to return from Imperial City. He began to prepare the factory and improve the weapons. The Western Marquis had surrounded the city this time, which made Chu Tian feel an even more serious sense of danger. If Thunder State had not sent reinforcements, even if Central State City could hold on, they would have suffered heavy casualties. Chu Tian had to quickly build up his army. Only his own strength was the most reliable. After several days, a group of blood eagles crossed the mountains and arrived in Central State. This group was made up of people wearing blood-red armor, with each one releasing a suffocating aura. These were the Dongfang family's blood-clothed generals. They were all experienced on the battlefield and were all senior elders of the Dongfang family. Each one of them had the strength of a true Soul Realm expert. The entire group was made up of true Soul Realm experts. This kind of lineup could only be seen in the kingdom's three great families. On the back of a large griffin, there were two men standing. One of them was a middle-aged man in a blue robe, and the other was covered in a cloak, giving off a mysterious and powerful aura. The calm martial ruler Dongfang Gan. One of the three rulers, the calm martial ruler, had personally come to Central State. If this was spread out, it would cause a stir in southern Xia. If the spirit beasts knew that the calm martial ruler was not in Imperial City, they would immediately attack the city. The calm martial ruler was not only one of the strongest experts in southern Xia, he was also the publicly acknowledged military god of southern Xia. The people of southern Xia believed that as long as the calm martial ruler was here, Imperial City would never fall. This kind of important person did not even personally come to Thunder State's natural disaster, but instead came to Central State City for a single Chu Tian. What is going on here? Shin Fengho found traces of a battle in Central State City. Could it be that the Western Marquis has already attacked? Shin Fengho tightly knit his brows. The calm martial ruler's eyes flashed a few times. It seems like the Western Marquis has failed. Let's go down. Yes. When the calm martial ruler's blood-clothed generals rode their griffins and blood eagles into Central State City, it immediately attracted the attention of the Central State citizens. Anyone riding a griffin was undoubtedly from Imperial City. The people of Central State did not have any good impressions of Imperial City. Chu Tian was not rewarded for his merits in Thunder State. Chu Tian was heavily punished for the chaos in Central State, and he even tried to swallow up Miracle Commerce. The Western Marquis, Shangguan Hong, had sent an army to attack, almost wanting to turn Central State into a land of chaos. The Southern Summer King being this muddle-headed made the people very dissatisfied. Central State City had already formed a unified system of benefit. Whether it was a large or small family, they all followed Chu Tian's lead. They would suffer together, they would prosper together. The citizens also benefited from miracle commerce, so Central State supported miracle commerce. They would not allow the kingdom to split miracle commerce and create another four great families. Shin Feng Ho? So it's Shin Feng Ho. When the citizens saw Shin Feng Ho come down from the griffin, their worries immediately turned to joy. Shin Feng Ho was Chu Tian's supporter. With Shin Feng Ho in Central State City, a fellow like the Western Marquis would not dare be this arrogant. Shin Feng Ho quickly asked, "What happened in Central State in the past 2 days?" The Western Marquis brought the Southern State Army to attack Central State, but they were defeated and captured by Chu Tian. What? Shin Feng Ho and the calm martial ruler's expressions fell. Although they had guessed that something would happen in Central State, they never thought it would be this serious. He had the Western Marquis capture Chu Tian, and he had led his army to attack the city. Was this fellow's brain filled with shit? It was fine if the Western Marquis led his army to attack the city. The Southern State Army was a famous army in southern Xia. The Western Marquis had personally led the Southern State Army to attack Central State City, but not only did they not manage to do anything to Central State City, the entire army had been captured and he, a respected Marquis, had been captured. This was truly a first in the Southern Summer Country. Shin Feng Ho became very embarrassed. He never thought that this matter would become even bigger. Interesting. The calm martial ruler was not angry at all. Chu Tian had already caused enough trouble, bring me to see him. The calm martial ruler followed Shin Feng Ho through the streets of Central State City. Just like when the great scholar Gu Qianqiu first entered Central State City, the calm martial ruler was attracted by the strange inventions in the city. When he learned of the uses of these things, and that they were all made by Chu Tian, the calm martial ruler's evaluation of Chu Tian couldn't help going up a level. Chu Tian being able to develop source energy weapons was not a coincidence. This person could truly be called a master of the universe. If he had enough support and protection, he would be able to cause a large change in southern Xia in the future. Thinking of this, the calm martial ruler's calm heart couldn't help becoming excited. This is Miracle Commerce's headquarters. Shin Feng Ho led the calm martial ruler to the Miracle Commerce headquarters and then directly entered Miracle Commerce. The Miracle Commerce people were all Shin Feng Ho, so they immediately let him in. Where is Chu Tian? Reporting to the Marquis, the chairman is testing the new weapon in the laboratory. The calm martial ruler and Shin Feng Ho's eyes lit up. Shin Feng Ho quickly asked, "Can we go in?" The Miracle Commerce people looked at the calm martial ruler beside Shin Feng Ho. Since it's Shin Feng Ho, it shouldn't be a problem, but we have to report it first. Please wait a bit. The Miracle Commerce staff quickly came back. We ask the Marquis to go in. The Miracle Commerce staff respectfully said, "The chairman is in the shooting range, the third room on the second floor." The calm martial ruler looked at Shin Feng Ho. "You are the Central State County's Marquis, but you actually need to report to a company leader in advance. That depends on who it is." Shin Feng Ho gave a bitter laugh. "Please." The two of them walked into the laboratory. Before they reached the shooting range, they already heard a series of sounds. Pung, pung. Sharp whistling sounds came one after another. The sound of iron rakes being smashed continued as metal targets were shattered by energy bullet. Chu Tian, Yun Tianhe, Gu Qianqiu, Meng Qingwu, and Meng Yingying were inside. Meng Yingying was in charge of shooting while the others were observing. After the gun's heat resistance has been improved, it can now withstand 10 shots without melting. The best range is within 200 meters. If it goes beyond 200 meters, the energy bullet will quickly dissipate. If it hits a target 400 meters away, its strength will decrease by 50%. The Source Energy magazine's battery has been optimized several times. Because the crystal oil refining technology is not high enough and the quality of the crystal oil used is not high enough, it is still unable to provide enough energy support. A normal 100 milliliter magazine can complete 8 shots. Meng Qingwu recorded the data one by one. Chapter 269. It had only been less than half a month since the Source Energy weapon was invented, but now it was ready to be used. This was truly incredible efficiency. In these past few days, the great scholar had worked hard to repair the bad impression he had left in Chu Tian's heart, so he helped Chu Tian without any complaints. He did not refuse the small tasks that Chu Tian gave him. His attitude of completing them to perfection could be described as painstaking effort. However, it was because he had been helping Chu Tian these past few days that he was fortunate enough to see the improvement process of the Source Energy pistol, giving him a large amount of inspiration and shock. The great scholar finally understood today. He had lived his 100 years like a dog. In his 20 years of traveling, he had once knelt outside a large country's door for 3 days and 3 nights in order to become a disciple of a scholar from a large country. In order to get a textbook, he had been ridiculed and humiliated by his classmate. But Gu Qianxiu thought it was all worth it. Those 20 years of traveling had laid a solid foundation for his future. That experience of enduring humiliation had paved the way for Gu Qianxiu's fame and glory. Gu Qianxiu could proudly say for a long time that he was the most knowledgeable person in southern Xia. He was not inferior to famous scholars from large countries, and almost all scholars in southern Xia had received his grace. But now, when he thought of those fellows that flew into the sky, Gu Qianxiu wanted to slap their faces. Chu Tian was arrogant, but he still treated him as a person. When Gu Qianxiu had studied with other scholars, not only did they cherish their knowledge, they were not willing to teach him anything. Instead, they treated him as servants, slaves, and even test subjects. Everyone said that Chu Tian was arrogant, but in Gu Qianxiu's eyes, Chu Tian's arrogance was only on the surface. It was very simple to obtain his respect, as long as one respected him. Whether it was a great scholar like him or a normal employee of miracle commerce, in Chu Tian's eyes, they were all the same. This was much better than those who were much more knowledgeable, but were boundlessly arrogant and saw others as worthless. This was a master alchemist who could change the world. Gu Qianxiu never would have thought that when he was 100 years old, he would regain his hot-bloodedness and strong desire for knowledge. He had already decided to spend the rest of his life in the Yun sect and support Chu Tian to the end. Chu Tian was very satisfied with Gu Qianxiu's performance, and adding in the fact that they were working together, although he had only joined for a few days, Chu Tian had already promoted him. He had already become the highest-ranked researcher in the Yun sect, with a position similar to Yun Tianhe's. Gu Qianxiu was naturally wild with joy. There was nothing more attractive to scholars than using their own knowledge and effort to personally change the world. Although Gu Qianxiu's intelligence was very limited, to be able to use his meager strength to contribute to an era of miracles was enough to leave his name in history and be praised by countless scholars of the future. This was the highest glory. A few tests were completed. Not quite there yet. Chu Tian was not satisfied and gave a few suggestions, but he did not want to wait any longer. Since the cost isn't high, let's make a batch first. The Source Energy firearms were easy to produce and the Source Energy batteries were very cheap. The only troublesome part was that the Source Energy pistols needed to be engraved with over 300 runes. In this era, automatic rune engraving machines had not been invented yet, so they needed to hire large amounts of array masters to complete it, but it was just a small labor cost. Chu Tian asked, "How many pistols can be produced per day?" The weapon factory has not been completed yet, so the efficiency is not high. The source energy pistols are not complicated and can be produced in a normal factory. Although the refining process for the source energy magazines is hard, the demand isn't high, so it shouldn't be a problem. Meng Qingwu said this and then gave a helpless sigh. Only the process of engraving the runes is a bit complicated. This is related to the secrets of the source energy weapons, so we have to be careful in choosing people. The workload is also quite large, so if it's just the people in the research lab, producing 50 pistols per day is already an optimistic estimate. Only 50 a day? If that was the case, it would take forever to equip an entire army. Too slow. Chu Tian knit his brows and said, "Don't worry about it too much. Even if the technology is leaked, we have to increase the speed of production. We have to make 1,000 guns as soon as possible. I don't want the Central State City siege to happen again." Technology leaked? What was there to worry about? The source energy pistol was the lowest grade source energy weapon, so Chu Tian did not care about it at all. Not to mention that the rune array was not enough. Without a suitable source energy battery, others could not make the source energy pistol. Although the source energy pistol's design was not perfect, the effect was already very shocking. If it could be equipped with 1,000 people, even if they met Southern Xia's most elite storm cavalry, they would be able to inflict heavy losses in just a few waves of attacks. This was the power of technology. This was the power of source energy weapons. The continent's first source energy weapon army was in Chu Tian's hands, so who would dare bully miracle commerce? Even if it was the three rulers, even if it was the king, they would still have to curry favor with Chu Tian. Meng Qingwu saw Chu Tian's firm attitude, so she could only nod and say, "I'll do my best to increase the speed." Nonsense. For such an important thing, how could you only care about production and not care about keeping it a secret? If it was leaked and caused chaos, would you be able to take responsibility for it? Chu Tian, you really disappoint people. A thunderous and majestic voice resounded in everyone's ears. A strange man wearing a cloak walked in. His two sword-like eyebrows seemed like they were about to reach the sky. If you can't keep your cool, how can you do anything big? When Gu Qianxiu and Yun Tianhe saw this person, their expressions changed. Why did this fellow personally come to Central State? Who the fuck are you? Chu Tian was lectured by someone for no reason, and it was in his own territory. In front of his own people, where would he put his face? He shouted out without even thinking, "When father does things, is it up to you to tell me what to do?" Chu Tian. Shen Fengho was shocked on the side. He quickly stood up and shouted, "You can't be rude to the calm martial ruler. This brat really wasn't afraid of death. Could it be that he didn't know that if the person in front of him wanted to take his life, it would be as easy as taking something out of his pocket?" Chu Tian was stunned. What calm martial ruler? The calm martial ruler gave a snort. Suddenly, a pure murderous aura poured down like a landslide, causing one's spirit and soul to tremble. The tens of thousands of horses neighed and the thousands of riders charged forward. Under this unstoppable pressure, even experts like the Divine Wind Marquis and Gu Qianxiu couldn't help taking a step back. Everyone else's faces turned pale as if their throats were being choked, making it hard for them to even breathe. This man did not even make a move. Just his aura alone was enough to suppress everyone. If one's will was a bit weaker, they would have had a mental breakdown. So strong. Meng Qingwu felt her back become wet with sweat. She had never seen such a strong person before. He was several times stronger than the Divine Wind Marquis. Was this the terrifying strength of the three ruler realm experts? This is bad. The calm martial ruler first showed his strength as soon as he came in. Thinking about how he had sent the great scholar to deal with Chu Tian, it seemed like he did not have good intentions this time. Shen Fengho revealed a bitter smile. Chu Tian, Chu Tian, you shouldn't have personally invited the calm martial ruler. This is the so-called inviting a god is easy, but sending him away is hard. In front of this kind of overwhelming strength, do you really have the qualifications to negotiate with him? The calm martial ruler did not want to hurt Chu Tian. He just wanted to show Chu Tian how strong he was, allowing the negotiations to proceed smoothly. But what made the calm martial ruler surprised was that even Shen Fengho and the calm martial ruler found it hard to resist his pressure, but Chu Tian was calm, like he was not affected at all. This young man was much younger than he imagined and much more outstanding than he imagined. Forget it. He had already shown his strength. If Chu Tian was a smart person, he would know what to do. The calm martial ruler slowly withdrew his sharp aura, and everyone felt their bodies lighten. He took a step forward and asked in a calm and aloof voice, "You must be Chu Tian." In the calm martial ruler's eyes, with his prestige and the strength he had just displayed, no matter how arrogant Chu Tian was, he would not even dare to take a deep breath. After all, to him, the calm martial ruler was an enemy he could not defeat. Moreover, if Chu Tian wanted to establish himself in southern Xia, he needed the calm martial ruler's protection. Like this, the following matters would be easy to discuss. Calm martial ruler. This old man has admired you for so many years, but I never thought that you would be such a despicable person. Who would have thought that before Chu Tian could even say a word, an angry old man would charge out with red eyes, looking like he wanted to die with the calm martial ruler. If you dare touch a single hair on his head, you'll have to step over this old man's corpse first. Yun Tianhe shouted like he was facing a great enemy, "Come, protect the chairman." Chen Bingyu and the others immediately charged in. The little fox's hairs stood up and it revealed a hostile gaze. Shin Fengho was stunned. The calm martial ruler was also stunned. What was this? Chu Tian personally wrote a letter to the calm martial ruler. Wasn't it because he wanted to cooperate with the calm martial ruler? What the hell was going on? Great scholar? Wasn't this the great scholar? Why was he this angry, even pointing at the calm martial ruler and scolding him? The calm martial ruler was a bit angry. Great scholar, this ruler has never done anything against his heart, why must you slander this ruler? Good. The calm martial ruler is a person who doesn't dare admit his actions. What did you say? The calm martial ruler was already a bit angry. Did the great scholar eat the wrong medicine? If it was anyone else, the calm martial ruler would have already killed them with a single palm. Take a look for yourself. The great scholar threw the letter at him. Do you dare say that this letter didn't come from your hand? This is indeed this ruler's personal letter, but then what else is there to say? You deliberately misled this old man, hinting for this old man to kill Chu Tian, trying to make this old man bear the name of killing a virtuous person. Your heart is too evil. This old man disdains being associated with you. The calm martial ruler's nose almost went crooked from his anger. The great scholar was reversing right and wrong. This letter clearly told the great scholar to protect Chu Tian for a while. How did it become hinting for the great scholar to kill Chu Tian? The calm martial ruler pulled out the letter to confront the great scholar. When the letter was pulled out, the calm martial ruler was stunned. The content of this letter was completely different from when it was sent. Although the writing style was the same, the content was completely different. Shin Fengho was also shocked. What medicine was the calm martial ruler selling? The calm martial ruler realized something and immediately explained, "That's not right, this is not this ruler's letter. This letter has been tampered with by someone." Gu Qianxiu angrily stared at him and said, "Now that things have reached this point, you still want to quibble? Who in southern Xia dares to tamper with the calm martial ruler's letter? This ruler personally came to Central State to cooperate, so how could I kill Chu Tian?" The calm martial ruler realized that the situation was bad and immediately clarified, "Everyone knows this ruler's character. I am not someone who doesn't dare admit my actions." Chu Tian gave a laugh and said, I'm sorry, calm martial ruler. Whether it's true or not, you've come too late. What do you mean? The contents of this letter have made this one feel uneasy, so I had to find another way out. I have already worked with Qing State, Thunder State, and the Great Scholar to come up with a plan to develop source energy weapons. The calm martial ruler has made a wasted trip. What? It seems like the calm martial ruler's comprehension isn't very good, so this old man will help the chairman translate it. Gu Qianqiu said in a voice filled with schadenfreude. The chairman's meaning is that this source energy weapon factory has nothing to do with the honorable ruler, so you should quickly return to Imperial City. This Gu Qianqiu was quite bold, but he was probably angry. Because of the calm martial ruler's letter, he almost made an unforgivable mistake. Whether this letter was in the calm martial ruler's hands or not, he could not shirk the responsibility. The calm martial ruler felt like he had been struck by lightning. How could this be? The calm martial ruler had left Imperial City filled with confidence and expectation, specially coming to Central State to negotiate with Chu Tian. Wasn't it because he wanted to use his status and strength to gain an advantage in the negotiations, even wanting to hold Chu Tian in his hands? Who would have thought that this would be the result? He had been kicked out before it even started. Because of the calm martial ruler's attitude, the other Miracle Commerce members were filled with vigilance and hostility. It's over, he had made a fool of himself. What should they do now? Damn. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have tried to show off his strength. What should he do now? With the great scholar here, martial arts would not work. His strength was average, but his mouth made the calm martial ruler feel fear, so he couldn't easily offend this bookworm. Who changed the letter? If this cooperation fails, this ruler will exterminate their 3 clans. Chapter 270. The Calm Martial Ruler. One of the 3 rulers, the calm martial ruler. The rulers of southern Xia did not have a country and their titles were not based on the land they were given. The ruler title was just a title. Calm martial, calm martial, calm martial, calm martial to calm the world. Meng Qingwu and Meng Yingying never thought that a famous person like the calm martial ruler would actually appear in Miracle Commerce's research facility and argue with the great scholar. These 2 were people with high status in the southern summer country. The great scholar was fine, after all, as scholars, it was normal for them to argue, but what kind of person was the calm martial ruler? He was the head of the southern summer 3 rulers and the commander of the country's army. For this kind of person to act like this, it was a bit too low of a price. The calm martial ruler became anxious. Now was not the time to care about face. Even if all of these people were added together, they still can't compare to this ruler. You've captured the Western Marquis this time, insulting the Shangguan family and capturing the entire southern state army. This is enough to cause a large wave in the kingdom. In the entire southern summer country, only this ruler can help you suppress this matter, so you better think this through. Calm martial ruler. The great scholar angrily said, "Are you looking down on this old man?" The great scholar's words are too heavy, this ruler has never said that. The calm martial ruler said this, but his face clearly revealed a look of disdain as he softly said, "But the great scholar is good at research, but this matter cannot be solved with just words. To put it bluntly, you are just a scholar with a false reputation without any real power." Gu Qianqiu's beard almost reached the sky. "Please calm your anger, please calm your anger." Chu Tian came out to be the peacemaker. Although the calm martial ruler's matter is a misunderstanding, it has already happened. A person cannot go back on their word, and we have already reached an agreement, so there is no changing it. I ask for the calm martial ruler's forgiveness. Chu Tian believed that the calm martial ruler did not have any intention of killing him. Otherwise, why would the calm martial ruler personally come to Central State with Shin Fengho? However, when he saw the calm martial ruler's livid expression, Chu Tian couldn't help feeling secretly satisfied. Everyone knew about the calm martial ruler's iron-bloodedness, but even if you, Donfang Gan, were arrogant, didn't you still suffer a loss? The great scholar couldn't beat the calm martial ruler and he didn't have any power, but the great scholar's position in southern Xiao was not normal. No matter how angry the calm martial ruler was, he did not dare do anything. Gu Qianxiu mobilizing all the scholars in the country to denounce him was not a joke. But you clearly looked for this lord first, and this lord has indeed come. The calm martial ruler gave a snort. As for this letter, this ruler wrote it to protect you, but I don't know who dared to tamper with this ruler's letter. I'll investigate this matter when I return and cut that person into 10,000 pieces. But regarding the matter of cooperation, no one else can do it except for this monarch. The great scholar stared at him and said, "Does the calm martial ruler want to bully others? I, Gu Qianxiu, do not agree." "Can you shut up, you old man? I've already said that this matter was not done by this ruler." Gu Qianxiu was a scholar, and when a scholar's temper came out, he would not recognize others. No matter how good his relationship with the calm martial ruler was, it was useless. The calm martial ruler's patience had already reached its limit. The great scholar and the calm martial ruler were about to lose all face. If this continued, it wouldn't be good if the calm martial ruler made a move. So he stood up and said, "As for the matter of cooperation, we can discuss it later. It's not impossible to have the best of both worlds." "Good, very good." The calm martial ruler looked over Chu Tian for a few minutes. "You're younger than I imagined and a bit wilder than I imagined. Of course, you're also better than I imagined. So I believe you won't disappoint this ruler." After saying this, he paused for a bit. He stared at Chu Tian and said, "This kind of weapon needs to be developed. The most important thing is to keep it a secret. If the technology is leaked, the consequences will be unimaginable. Do you understand?" Chu Tian's brows jumped up. This little one invited the calm martial ruler to Central State City to discuss cooperation, not to have the calm martial ruler teach me a lesson. This brat. Didn't he know how terrifying the calm martial ruler was? The calm martial ruler was filled with anger, but he could not vent it out. If you have the confidence to not cause any negative effects, then that's a different matter. The calm martial ruler could only grit his teeth and accept it. Then he immediately asked, "This ruler will first listen to how you plan on cooperating. I hope you can satisfy this ruler. After all, in southern Xia, without this ruler's help, it will be hard for you to take a single step forward." The calm martial ruler's voice was very calm, but there was a hint of threat in it. The meaning behind his words was, if you don't give this ruler a reasonable proposal, this ruler won't be able to get a share. Then you can forget about doing it. What's the rush? Chu Tian saw the calm martial ruler's attitude, but he did not say anything. The weapon test is not complete yet, we'll continue with the weapon test. What is there to test? Haven't we already tested it? Chu Tian revealed a trace of disdain, but he did not care about the calm martial ruler. He just waved his hand at Meng Yingying. "Yingying, come here." The calm martial ruler's face turned dark. This was the first time he felt that his reputation was not that useful. This was a person even stronger than Shen Fengho. If he was angered, it would truly be a disaster. But with Chu Tian supporting her, Meng Yingying was not afraid of anything. She immediately ran in front of Chu Tian. "What is it?" Chu Tian took out a box and gave it to her. "Take this weapon and try it out." "There's a new weapon?" Meng Yingying opened the crystal box in surprise and took out a more complicated source energy gun. She was shocked. Why does this gun look different? The others all looked over in curiosity. This gun was 3 times bigger than a pistol, and its structure was similar to a pistol, only the magazine was separated. Not only did it have a larger capacity, it also had a richer array system. "This is a fast-firing gun. Chu Tian walked in front of Meng Yingying and took out a special energy magazine. Compared to a pistol, it's twice the size. The magazine is separated and can hold 3 times the energy. A single bullet's power is reduced by 20%, but the firing speed is increased by 2-3 times. The magazine can hold 20 to 30 bullets. Everyone was more shocked the more they heard. Compared to a pistol, this gun's power was reduced, but the magazine was larger, and the firing speed was higher. There was no doubt its firepower was stronger, so it was suitable for the battlefield. Although its power was lower than a pistol, it still had a strong killing power. In terms of firing speed and number of bullets, it had a high advantage. The calm martial ruler revealed an excited look. Then let's give it a try. Meng Yingying looked at Chu Tian. Chu Tian nodded. Go! Alright. Meng Yingying raised the gun and walked in front of the shooting range. She aimed at the target in front of her. You guys move aside, I'm going to fire. When Meng Yingying pulled the trigger, a ray of light extended from the energy magazine and instantly flowed through the entire body of the gun. All the runes and arrays were activated. Pa 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 pa. A series of dense energy bullets were shot out like rain. The giant rake in front of her was like a piece of paper, instantly being torn to pieces by the terrifying power. It could actually fire continuously. Such a high firing speed, such a concentrated attack. When everyone saw the might of this weapon, they were all shocked by its power. There was no need for many of these weapons. An army of 10,000 only needed 100 of them. Once the enemy got close, they could shoot at them and it would definitely break the enemy's spirit. Although the energy bullets were weakened, it was still enough to pierce through a Void Soul Realm cultivator's protective spirit energy. The firing speed was increased and the attack density was increased. Even if an awakened Soul Realm cultivator was in front of this gun, they might not be able to dodge it. Meng Yingying raised the gun and fired as she excitedly shouted, "This gun is too good to use." When half the magazine was used, "It's done." Chu Tian found that the gun barrel was getting hotter and hotter, showing signs of melting. He immediately shouted, "Stop, stop, stop." Meng Yingying could not react. Pung! The gun barrel suddenly exploded. Meng Yingying was sent flying by a strong force. Meng Qingwu's face fell. "Yingying, are you alright?" It's fine. I have the Starlight Immortal Body protecting me. This bit of energy can't harm me." Meng Yingying quickly stood up. Her clothes were a bit burnt, but she was fine. When she raised the gun, the entire gun seemed to have melted and deformed. The explosion just now was caused by the high temperature melting the runes, causing the energy to go out of control. How could this gun be burnt? The rune array design is not perfect, too much energy has formed the high temperature. Other than that, the material of this gun is not ideal, so we need to find a cheap and high temperature resistant material. Although the experiment had failed, this new source energy gun's might was fully displayed. Meng Qingwu asked Chu Tian, "This gun's killing power is much higher than the pistol, shouldn't we give it a name? You guys can come and take it." "I'll do it." Meng Yingying waved the burnt gun in her hand and said, "This gun is only a bit bigger than the pistol, so it's still very light to carry. Moreover, it can fire very fast, so it's very suitable for charging into enemy lines. We'll call it submachine gun." Submachine gun? Alright, we'll call it that. Chu Tian found that Meng Yingying wasn't stupid sometimes, at least this name was very appropriate. "Young miss, please collect the waste and bring it to the research lab to be analyzed. How much energy is left in the magazine and how many bullets have melted? Collect all of this data as soon as possible." Meng Qingwu nodded. "No problem." Chu Tian walked in front of the completely stunned calm martial ruler. "Calm martial ruler! Calm martial ruler!" Chu Tian called out twice before the calm martial ruler reacted. "What does the calm martial ruler think of this weapon? Give me your evaluation." The calm martial ruler did not know how to describe it. "Good, very good." Since the calm martial ruler is satisfied, then I can be assured. Chu Tian gave a laugh. Let's discuss the matter of cooperation. Chapter 271. Miracle Commerce did not lack money or people. The calm martial ruler had turned from a life-saving straw to an icing on the cake, so the method of negotiation had to change. The source energy weapon is an invention that can be recorded in history. You being able to create this kind of weapon is enough to leave your name in history, enough to leave your name in the history of the southern summer country. Chu Tian was sitting across from him with Gu Qianxiu, Shen Fengho, and Meng Qingwu standing to his left and right, wholeheartedly tasting the honey tea without saying a word. The calm martial ruler first gave a few words of praise before changing his tone. Because the source energy weapon is too disruptive, it will touch the interests of many large characters, both inside and outside the country. With your strength, you won't be able to protect this technology. The best way is to sell the blueprints to the kingdom and use the kingdom's strength to protect this technology. Shen Fengho and Meng Qingwu were also stunned. The calm martial ruler wanted to take the technology and do it alone. This kind of weapons blueprints could not be bought with money. Would Chu Tian agree? Gu Qianxiu angrily said, "After all this time, you still want to steal Chu Tian's research. Great scholar, don't be angry." Chu Tian gave a laugh. Actually, if the calm martial ruler wants to buy the blueprints, as long as the price is right, of course it's fine. The calm martial ruler wanted to test Chu Tian's bottom line. This kind of great invention, who wouldn't want to hold it in their hands? In the end, Chu Tian agreed without even thinking about it. When did this fellow ever act according to common sense? But I have to tell the calm martial ruler that our technology is constantly improving. The source energy pistol blueprints we are spending a lot of money to buy right now might be overturned in just a few days. We might be able to develop a better and more powerful pistol, or we might even be able to develop a submachine gun, an even better weapon. You can buy one blueprint, but can you buy 10 or 100? The calm martial ruler tightly knit his brows. Indeed, Miracle Commerce hadn't invented the source energy pistol for long, and the source energy pistols hadn't even been mass-produced yet, but the source energy submachine gun had already appeared. You aren't the only one on the continent that wants to buy the blueprint. Since they are all going to be transferred out, selling one is selling 100 is also selling. As long as we wait for the right price, there will be an endless stream of buyers. Why would Miracle Commerce need to worry about not having enough money? As long as we focus on researching new blueprints, we will be able to become the richest people on the continent. What does the calm martial ruler think about the competitiveness of Southern Xia on the continent? You want to buy it? Sure. I'm afraid you don't have that much money. The calm martial ruler was silent for a few seconds before giving a disappointed sigh. Then, what do you think? To be honest, even if the calm martial ruler did not harm me, I don't trust the calm martial ruler's character. What do you mean? Does the calm martial ruler think integrity is important? Of course. When Thunder State was in trouble, the calm martial ruler sent a ruler's letter to Central State, and this little one did his part to solve Thunder State's problem. However, it's a pity that the calm martial ruler did not keep his promise. Chu Tian gave a sigh. This really makes one's heart cold. This brat was taking this chance to ask for a reward. The calm martial ruler did not even think about it. Someone, bring this ruler's 6-leaf profound royal zoysia. A jade box opened in front of Chu Tian, and a strong spiritual energy was released. From its aura and color, this was indeed a top-grade sacred herb. This kind of herb could not grow in southern Xia and was bought from other large countries, so its value was hard to measure. It could only be found by a true soul realm expert. As for the others, this ruler will add another reward. The calm martial ruler gave a snort. Are you satisfied now? Actually, it's just a trivial top-grade sacred herb. This little one does not care about it at all. I was just casually mentioning it. Why is the calm martial ruler so polite? Chu Tian said this, but he immediately took out the jade box. Since the calm martial ruler is giving this little one face, then I have to show my gratitude. The calm martial ruler was already generous enough, so Chu Tian had to give him some face. Miracle Commerce will build a weapon factory in Imperial City. Imperial City's influence is much more complicated than Central States, so if we can find the calm martial ruler as a partner, this matter will be much more convenient. What does the calm martial ruler think about this? Chu Tian's meaning was very simple. The Central State weapon factory would remain the same and another Imperial City factory would be opened. The Central State factory will be owned by Miracle Commerce and the weapons produced will be controlled by Miracle Commerce. The Imperial City factory will be responsible for military supplies. Chu Tian took out a scroll from his sleeve and handed it over. If the calm martial ruler is not assured, this is the source energy pistol design. I can give it to the calm martial ruler for free to express Miracle Commerce's sincerity. The calm martial ruler was filled with joy. At the same time, he was filled with anger. This brat had already thought of this and even made preparations, but he was deliberately putting on a show. This was truly hateful. If the calm martial ruler has no objections, then let's discuss the details. Miracle Commerce would build a weapon factory in Imperial City. Miracle Commerce and the Southern Xia Army would each take half. Miracle Commerce would provide long-term technical support and the Southern Xia Army would provide resources and protection. Whether the source energy weapons could be used by Southern Xia. This was what the calm martial ruler cared about. Chu Tian's plan satisfied the calm martial ruler, so he didn't waste any words and immediately came to an agreement. From now on, the calm martial ruler would become a partner of Miracle Commerce. The calm martial ruler was the Southern Summer King's most trusted minister, so with the calm martial ruler's full protection, it would be hard for Miracle Commerce to be moved in Southern Xia. Of course, the problem that needed to be solved was the trouble Chu Tian caused in Central State. This ruler can settle the matter in Central State and guarantee the safety of your Central State forces. The calm martial ruler put away the source energy pistol blueprint, but you can't stay in Central State. This was not purposely making things difficult for him. Chu Tian was not a noble and did not have the merit of being a marquis. He did not have the title of a marquis, but he had the power of a marquis. Even if the Southern Summer King was an open ruler, it would be hard for him to not have any grudges. Not to mention the fact that the Southern Summer King was a strong person with a strong desire for control. How could he allow Chu Tian to dominate Central State? He was already prepared for this. Who told Chu Tian to dominate Central State? Imperial City was the most important city in Southern Xia, with all the resources of the 8 states gathered in Imperial City. So, if Miracle Commerce wanted to expand, it was only a matter of time before they entered Imperial City. After Chu Tian's group dominated Central State, they were already planning to shift their focus to Imperial City. Once the royal proclamation gives the order, I will immediately leave. Your words are enough. As for the rest, let this ruler handle it. The calm martial ruler stood up. The Western Marquis is still a marquis. You've locked him up for so many days, I think it's time to release him. No problem. Chu Tian did not waste any time and immediately brought the calm martial ruler to see the Western Marquis. The Western Marquis had been locked up in Central State for 3 days and his cultivation had been sealed. He was guarded by the 5 Yu brothers and his body was currently wrapped in chains, looking like a large dumpling. Sir Western Marquis, look who's here. The Western Marquis was still a marquis, so he had never suffered this kind of humiliation before. He immediately roared out, "Brat Chu Tian, if you want to kill me then kill me. Don't humiliate this marquis." He did have some backbone, but it was fine to just listen to these words. The Western Marquis knew that Chu Tian wouldn't dare make a move against him. In fact, capturing the Western Marquis was already a big matter. If something happened to the Western Marquis, the Shangguan family would raze Central State City to the ground in a fit of rage. But a palm swept out. The chains on the Western Marquis body were shattered. Boss, you did not even see how the other side made this move. The Western Marquis was slammed into the ground and spat out several broken teeth. His face was filled with fear. What was this strength? Why was it this strong? Western Marquis, you have truly disappointed this ruler. A calm and dignified voice sounded in his ears. When the Western Marquis looked up and saw the person in front of him, his pupils shrank and his voice began to tremble. You are. The calm martial ruler was clearly very angry at the Western Marquis. If the Western Marquis did not lead the army, would all these things have happened? As for the matter of the letter being changed, the calm martial ruler thought about it. It was most likely done by the refined ruler's subordinates. This slap seemed like it was aimed at the Western Marquis face, but it was actually a warning to others. The Western Marquis brain completely short-circuited. Why was this happening? Why would the calm martial ruler appear here? The calm martial ruler, the head of the three rulers. His influence and deterrence was unparalleled, even the Southern Summer King had to rely on him. Who would have thought that this kind of person would appear in a place like Central State? When the Western Marquis reacted, he immediately gritted his teeth and said, "Why is the calm martial ruler humiliating me? Humiliating you?" The calm martial ruler sent out another slap, slapping the Western Marquis into the wall. The commander has been captured and the army has been captured. If this was a real battlefield, do you know what kind of ending you would face? Even if the enemy doesn't kill you, this ruler will still kill you. Under the calm martial ruler's killing intent, the Western Marquis began to tremble. He did not know why the calm martial ruler was this angry, but he could only honestly say, "The calm martial ruler is right, but Chu Tian, he..." "Shut up. The royal proclamation did order you to come to Central State, but it did not order you to attack the city. It's a good thing you didn't cause a disaster, otherwise how could the Southern Summer King let you off?" The calm martial ruler coldly said, "Because of the refined ruler's face, this ruler will not bother with you. I also hope that you can tell the refined ruler for me to know when to stop. Don't try to touch this ruler's bottom line." After saying this, the calm martial ruler gently flicked his finger. The invisible blade instantly shattered the chains on the Western Marquis body. The Western Marquis lost all his strength and fell to the ground. He climbed up in a very sorry state and bowed to the calm martial ruler, looking at Chu Tian with eyes filled with hate. Although he did not know what had happened, from the current situation, it seemed like Chu Tian had already submitted to the calm martial ruler. The calm martial ruler personally coming to Central State City was enough to show how much importance he placed on Chu Tian. Adding in the great scholar Shin Fengho and the Golden Arrow Marquis. Chu Tian's background was too strong, with experts like clouds in his hands. With the Western Marquis' strength, he might not be able to deal with Chu Tian alone. "Take your Southern State Army and scram." Chu Tian did not mind the calm martial ruler's presence at all. "This is just a small lesson for you. If you pass through Central State in the future, please make a detour, otherwise this matter will not be resolved so easily." The Western Marquis left Central State dejectedly like this. After taking care of the Southern State Army, the calm martial ruler left the Miracle Commerce headquarters. This ruler should return to Imperial City. "I hope that you'll be careful in Central State and not cause any trouble." "This little one never causes trouble, it's always others that cause trouble for me." "I hope it's like this." The calm martial ruler did not stay any longer and immediately left on the Griffin. This matter had finally come to an end. Chu Tian let out a long sigh of relief, feeling an unprecedented sense of relief. Chapter 272. When the calm martial ruler left, Chu Tian went into closed-door cultivation. There were large amounts of materials entering Chu Tian's laboratory every day, spending around 200 million gold coins. Most of them were very precious, and there was no lack of level 3 elixirs. Miracle commerce was not the same as before. They had money and channels, so they could satisfy all of Chu Tian's requests in the shortest amount of time. Chu Tian's position in miracle commerce was very high, so no one would ask him why he wanted something. After a week, Chu Tian announced an important high-level meeting, and everyone came to the conference hall after receiving the news. One big and one small beauties arrived first. The older sister was dignified and beautiful, while the younger sister was pure and kind. Although they were sisters, their styles were completely different. A pure boy would prefer Meng Yingying because he longed for pure love. A playboy would prefer Meng Qingwu because she was harder to conquer and more challenging. The other beauties also arrived. Nangong Yun was fiery and straightforward, making people love and hate her. Yun Yao was wild and rebellious, like a rose with thorns. Chen Bingyu was as cold as snow, like an ice goddess. Feng Kaidai was noble and generous, like a noble princess. Each of them had their own spring and autumn, looking very pleasing to the eye. It filled the conference room with charm, making it seem like a paradise in the heavens. Following that, Yun Tianhe, Yun Xiao, Shen Fengho, Gu Qianqiu, and the others all arrived. Before I announce the important matters today, I still have something to do. There were 5 jade boxes placed in front of Chu Tian's table. You're all blessed. Due to everyone's good performance, this chairman has decided to reward you. Nangong Yun was the first to say in a surprised voice, "Boss is giving out rewards?" "That's right, these are the 5 profound royal pills that I refined. They will be given to Meng Qingwu, Meng Yingying, Nangong Yun, Yun Yao, and Feng Kaidai. Take a look, this is what you deserve." Wah, are these high-grade sacred pills? The moment the jade box was opened, a powerful burst of spiritual energy gushed out. The 5 pills were all golden in color and had natural pill inscriptions on their surfaces. They emitted a kind of emperor's aura. With a single glance, one could tell that they were top-notch saint pills. Not bad. This was Chu Tian's latest masterpiece. Chu Tian had obtained a 6-leaf profound royal zoysia from the calm martial ruler, which was a top-grade sacred herb. A normal true soul realm cultivator would find it hard to eat, not to mention an illustrious soul realm cultivator like Chu Tian. This stalk of profound sovereign Ganoderma had 6 leaves. Chu Tian disassembled them and used them as medicine. One stalk of peak-grade holy medicine turned into 6 high-grade holy medicines, and after Chu Tian's meticulous refinement, it finally became 6 high-grade holy pills. The pill personally refined by Chu Tian had a very strong effect. Even if a low-level true soul realm expert took it, it would have a large effect on their cultivation, not to mention a group of illustrious soul realm cultivators. Chu Tian had already used some normal elixirs and low-grade sacred herbs to raise his strength to the peak 4th awakened soul layer. Now he was prepared to use the profound royal pill to attack the 5th awakened soul layer. Of course, there was no use in using too many pills, so the extra 5 would naturally be distributed to everyone. Chu Tian, Yingying, the young Miss, Nangong, and the 4 original partners would each get 1. Shen Fengho had always been helping Chu Tian, even personally going to Imperial City to persuade Chu Tian. Chu Tian had to repay him no matter what, so he gave Feng Kaidai another 1. Yun Tianhe had helped Chu Tian quite a bit. After all, when Chu Tian first came to Central State City, if it wasn't for the Yun family's strong support, he would not have been able to gain a foothold. He would not have been able to survive in the hands of the 3 great families, so he left another 1 for Yun Yao. Meng Qingwu and the others were very happy. Shen Fengho and Yun Tianhe were also very satisfied. This kind of distribution was very reasonable. The pills have been distributed, it's time to talk about proper business. Chu Tian cleared his throat and said, "Under my wise leadership, Miracle Commerce is now the strongest power in Central State City. Why are you all looking at me like that? I know I'm very great, but there's no need to worship me too much. Central State doesn't count for anything. The topic we're discussing today is how to advance into Imperial City. Everyone automatically filtered out the part where Chu Tian boasted about himself. Meng Qingwu was the first to ask, "There's no news from Imperial City. Isn't it a bit too early for us to plan a change in strategy?" "Relax, with the calm martial ruler looking after us. There won't be any accidents in Imperial City. There's also one thing you're wrong about. We're not planning a change in strategy, but rather we're planning something else," Chu Tian confidently said. "Central State's situation is very simple and the location is very good. How could we give up the foundation we've worked so hard to build here just because we want to enter Imperial City? Central State will become Miracle Commerce's main production and communication base. There will be no conflict with Imperial City." Central State was Miracle Commerce's headquarters. This was the birthplace of Miracle Commerce, so whether it was the people's hearts or influence, it could not be compared to any other place. Central State was in the center of the kingdom, so it could easily expand in all directions. With Imperial City blocking the way, the Warhounds tribe's invasion of the south would not affect this place for a while. Because of its stability, safety, and convenient transportation, Central State had a very high strategic value to Miracle Commerce. "Old Gu, I hope you can return to Imperial City." "What? Return to Imperial City?" Gu Qianxiu's expression changed. "Do you think I'll leave? The Yun sect has so many unfinished projects. I'll stay here even if I have to. Imperial City has the calm martial ruler. What use is an old man? I can't help much if I go back, so I might as well stay in the back to do research." "You want this old man to go back? Impossible." Gu Qianxiu had no interest in the company. He just wanted to do research. Ever since he came to the Yun sect, it was like he had found a place to return to. Even if a giant dragon came to pull him, it would be impossible to pull him away from the Yun sect. "What are you so anxious for? I haven't even finished speaking yet." Chu Tian helplessly looked at this old man. "I'm letting you go to Imperial City, not to chase you away, but rather to ask you to be the vanguard." "Vanguard? Central State's Yun sect has Yun Tianhe in charge. I'm prepared to set up another research facility in Imperial City." Gu Qianxiu was shocked. Chu Tian continued to say, "The researchers in Central State's Yun sect are mostly from the Yun sect and are the foundation of the Yun family. But I think as long as the great scholar makes a call, the scholars of Southern Xia will respond like clouds. Since we have this kind of resource, wouldn't it be a pity to waste it? We can rely on Imperial City's advantage to set up another research facility." "Your meaning is to set up another branch of the Yun sect?" Gu Qianxiu was filled with excitement. That really couldn't be better. This old man doesn't dare say anything else, but I do have some prestige among the scholars. As long as this old man calls, most of the Southern Xia scholars will respond. Imperial City's laboratory and resources are better than Central State's, so we can immediately set up a large-scale research facility. That's right. Miracle Commerce was becoming larger and larger, and Chu Tian needed to research more and more things, so the research force was already stretched thin. With Miracle Commerce expanding into Imperial City, the Yun sect also needed to expand. Chu Tian said to Meng Qingwu and the others, "You guys will go with me and help Old Gu build the research facility, while also building the foundation for Miracle Commerce. I believe that with Old Gu here, no one in Imperial City will go against you. I hope that when I reach Imperial City, everything will have been done." Meng Yingying was stunned for a few seconds. "We're going to Imperial City? That's fine." Meng Qingwu nodded with a faint smile. "You're always the one charging ahead, so it's about time we show ourselves." Meng Qingwu and her sister were Chu Tian's most trusted people. Gu Qianxiu saw that Chu Tian had left these two important people in his care, which was enough to show his trust in him. He immediately patted his chest and promised, "Please be assured. In a place like Imperial City, my name is very useful. I will definitely protect the two young misses, and if there is an accident, I will face my head." The Southern Summer King, or the refined ruler's main target, was Chu Tian. Before the situation was clear, it was best for Chu Tian not to personally go to Imperial City. It was better for the Meng Qingwu and her sister to go first. The calm martial ruler needed to help build the Source Energy Weapon Factory, and Gu Qianxiu needed to help build the Yunsex branch courtyard. Meng Qingwu could go to Imperial City and build the Magnetic Sound Tower and the Magnetic Image Tower. With the protection of these two large characters, at least no one would dare go against them. Meng Qingwu was not a normal person, so Chu Tian had confidence in her. "This matter is decided. Do you have any objections?" "I do. I do." The three beauties stood up at the same time. They were Nangong Yun, Feng Kaidai, and Yun Yao. Nangong Yun would go with the Meng Qingwu sisters in Chu Tian's plan. After all, as a partner, she was worth trusting. As for Feng Kaidai and Yun Yao, they were not part of the first group to go to Imperial City. Nangong Yun did not want to go to Imperial City. Yun Yao and Feng Kaidai were the opposite. Nangong Yun gave her own reason. "I am a member of the Nangong family, and the Nangong family has a grudge with us. If I go to Imperial City, wouldn't we be giving them something to use against us? If the Nangong family makes a move in the name of family matters, the calm martial ruler will not interfere." These words were reasonable. In Imperial City, Nangong Yun's status was indeed special. Yun Yao and Feng Kaidai expressed that they could help the Meng Qingwu sisters gain a stable foundation in Imperial City. "Then let's change the plan a bit more. Nangong Yun won't be going for now." Chu Tian looked at Yun Yao and Feng Kaidai and said, "As for you two, you don't need to worry. I won't forget you two, but I have another important task." Saying this, Chu Tian placed a map of southern Xia on the table. "You will be responsible for the ultra-wave crystal tower, creating an information network for miracle commerce to cover most of the major states. This will allow our radios, communications, and images to be sent to all of southern Xia in real time. This is a large project for us and an important strategic project. I am prepared to mobilize 3,000 miracle commerce employees, with Sershin Fengho and Old Yun coordinating. I will have Feng Kaidai, Yun Yao, and Yun Xiao lead the team and complete this task in 1-2 months." Everyone's bodies trembled. Meng Yingying reluctantly looked at Chu Tian and raised the silver submachine gun. "Chu Tian, elder sister Nangong, elder sister Kaidai, elder sister Yun Yao, and everyone else, take care. We'll meet again in Imperial City." After saying this, the Griffin riders began to rise into the sky and gradually disappeared from sight. Chapter 273. Time was the most expensive cost. It was impossible for Chu Tian to take care of everything, and he did not want to grasp everything in his hands. Therefore, he delegated the power that needed to be delegated. He wanted to let his companions gain some experience so that they would be of greater value in the future. Therefore, he divided his forces into 3 groups. The first path was for Gu Qianxiu and the Meng Qingwu sisters to go to Imperial City and help miracle commerce open up the initial market. The second path was for Shen Fengho and his daughter and the Yun Yao siblings to create a national information network for miracle commerce. The third path was for Chu Tian and Yun Tianhe to perfect miracle commerce's inventions, especially the Central State Weapon Factory. Chu Tian and the calm martial ruler had many agreements. The Imperial City Weapon Factory would not be smaller than the Central State Weapon Factory, and the technology would not be too far ahead of Imperial Cities. The simple translation of this was, no matter how many weapons your Central State makes, my imperial city will make the same amount of weapons. Whatever new weapons your central state makes, my imperial city will also have a new weapon. Both sides were selling. Imperial city's side would be supplied by the military. Central state would be supplied by Miracle Commerce's private weapon factory. This would ensure that Southern Xia's military would have enough source energy weapons. The calm martial ruler thought it was foolproof, but he didn't know that the sly Chu Tian had a hidden card. Not only would Central State have a source energy weapon factory that did not lose to Imperial City, it would also be the only place in Southern Xia that specialized in producing energy magazines. This was an advantage that Imperial City did not have. Central State had the largest known oil field in Southern Xia. Just the oil field near South Sky City was enough to satisfy several Southern Xia's needs. Therefore, South Sky City was made into Miracle Commerce's largest battery manufacturing base. Looking at it like this, Central State wasn't wrong to place the energy magazine manufacturing base in Central State, who told it to be convenient. Even if the calm martial ruler realized this, it would be too late. If the source energy pistol did not have an energy magazine, it was just a piece of scrap metal. It might not even be as good as scrap metal. Chu Tian had promised to share the source energy weapon blueprints with the calm martial ruler and was even responsible for improving it, but what use was blueprints alone? The energy magazine manufacturing technology was in his hands. In the end, the calm martial ruler had to look at Chu Tian's expression. This was the reason why Chu Tian readily agreed. After everything was prepared, Chu Tian gave the matter of building the factory to Yun Tianhe and Shin Fengho to manage. Chu Tian went into closed-door cultivation again, using all his strength to attack the bottleneck. The royal city was a land of outstanding people. There were countless geniuses and powerful clans. The Dongfang, Shangguan, and Nangong clans had tens of thousands of guest officials and hangers-on, and over 100,000 disciples of their own clans. Among them, there were countless talented people. Was Chu Xinghe very strong? Of course it was very strong. Chu Xinghe had been unparalleled in Zhongzhou for more than a decade. Even in the 8 states of the southern summer country, Chu Xinghe was one of the best. Imperial City was different. Imperial City was richer in resources, the family influence was stronger, and their background was deeper. It was not strange for 2-3 geniuses like Chu Xinghe to appear here. Chu Tian could roam Central State, but that did not mean he could reach the Eternal Star Realm in Imperial City. Adding in the fact that Chu Tian had many enemies and the things he did were quite big, it was hard to avoid the jealousy of others. So, before he left, Chu Tian had to make a breakthrough. Miracle Commerce had a large amount of resources, but the elixirs they could find were mostly low-grade sacred herbs, with the occasional medium-grade sacred herb. These super herbs worth over 100 million gold coins could allow Chu Tian to make a breakthrough, but it would take a long time. Chu Tian did not look at him, so he thickened his face and took out a top-grade sacred herb. He divided it into 6 parts and refined a high-grade sacred pill, the profound royal pill, which was enough to satisfy Chu Tian's needs. "Little fellow, protect me." Chu Tian walked into the closed-door room and immediately took the profound royal pill, beginning to refine the pill's power. After the profound royal pill's effects spread through his body, his meridians were nourished by the pill's spiritual energy and his spirit energy quickly flowed, gathering in his dantian like rivers flowing into the sea. There was a strong will in his sea of consciousness that seemed like it was about to break out of his body. Chu Tian could feel that his main source spirit was awakening even deeper. There was even energy coming out of his soul, causing a layer of black fog to appear around Chu Tian. His spirit energy continued to grow. He couldn't suppress this power any longer? Now is not the time. Chu Tian forcefully resisted his main source spirit. "Continue sleeping for me." Roar. A low roar came from the depths of his soul. It was filled with irritation, dissatisfaction, and anger. A strong pressure was suddenly released. Although it was not large, it was still very shocking. The little fox felt like it was being threatened. Its hairs stood up and it gave a few deep roars. Was this aura coming from the closed-door room? The little fox's eyes turned a few times and it laid back down on the ground. It stuck out its pink tongue and licked its claws as it casually thought. Master's source spirit was even stronger. Master's increase in strength was already in the bag, but Master was also very strange. His main source spirit was clearly very strong, so why did he have to suppress it? This did not fit with his flamboyant personality. Forget it, this fox will just go back to sleep. What's the point of caring about him? 1 week later, when Chu Tian left the closed-door room, he was already a 5th awakened soul layer cultivator. Breaking through a trivial bottleneck was not a difficult matter for Chu Tian. Hey! I told you to help me guard the door, why did you fall asleep? Chu Tian kicked the fox's soft belly. Has anyone been here in the past few days? The little fox rubbed its eyes and stood up. It gave a long yawn and then shook its head. What is the calm martial ruler doing? It's already been half a month and the royal proclamation still hasn't come down. Chu Tian was a bit impatient. Let's go to the laboratory to take a look. In Chu Tian's private laboratory, there were 18 corpses being refined in barrels. The ancient spiritual god's memory fragments from the central state tower had given Chu Tian quite a bit of benefit. There were some ancient techniques and some special knowledge, like how to refine the divine blood corpses. What made Chu Tian's head hurt was that, when the corpses were refined once and their strength increased, even if they were refined again with several times the amount of divine blood, the effects would not be ideal. After Chu Tian looked for the reason, he found that the corpse's essence blood had already dried up and the divine blood could not be directly added to their mortal bodies. The reason why the first refinement had such a large effect was because he had a batch of blood essence pills on hand. The refined corpses could not be refined without the help of blood essence. Where could Chu Tian find it? He couldn't be like the demonic cultivators and kill the innocent to obtain it. It was a pity to throw away the 18 corpses, but keeping them didn't have much use. This gave Chu Tian a headache. Rise. Chu Tian shook the bell. The 18 corpses all left the barrels. They were a bit stronger than before, but they were only at the peak 4th awakened soul layer, and it was hard for them to increase any further. It's fine. They still had value, so he just used them for now. Chu Tian saw a transparent crystal jar with a jade-like divine bone inside. Chu Tian revealed a headache expression. This was the divine bone from the central state tower. This material was too strong. Chu Tian couldn't do anything to it no matter what he did. Although he knew it was precious, he couldn't use it. He could only bring it to Imperial City and find another way. In the following time, Chu Tian helped the Yun sect with their research while supervising the company's construction. Central State City's port was completed, the Source Energy Weapon Factory and the Energy Magazine Factory were completed, and even Nangong Yun had come out of closed-door cultivation. It had been 20 days since the calm martial ruler left. There was still no news from that side. If there was nothing unexpected, the young miss should have already shown her skills in Imperial City. Could the calm martial ruler deal with this? Boss! When Chu Tian was filled with doubts, Nangong Yun excitedly charged in and pulled Chu Tian out. Quickly come out, the Imperial City's special envoy is here. Why aren't you coming out to greet him? I'm telling you this time, don't cause any more trouble, otherwise you won't be able to enter Imperial City for the rest of your life. The Imperial City had sent a special envoy and not a punitive army. This meant that the calm martial ruler had already suppressed this matter. Since it took this long, the conflict this time was much bigger than what Chu Tian believed. Chu Tian followed Nangong Yun out. He first saw a griffin with Shin Fengho beside it. As the Marquis and the City Lord, naturally he had to personally come out to greet him. Chu Tian receives the royal proclamation. The special envoy did not waste any words and read the royal proclamation. After investigation, it has been confirmed that the chaos in Central State was caused by the three great families. Although Chu Tian has made many mistakes, in consideration of Thunder State and Qing State's contributions to the kingdom, this king will pardon Chu Tian's crimes and grant him the title of scholar. I ask Chu Tian to immediately leave and enter Imperial City to receive his reward. It was finally done? Shen Fengho was very happy when he heard this news. The calm martial ruler really isn't simple, actually obtaining a scholar title for you. Scholar title? Chu Tian was a bit curious. What is the use of a scholar title? Shen Fengho said, a scholar is a scholar title. There are only 10 scholars in southern Xia, and Old Yun is the oldest scholar in the country. Then what about the great scholar? The great scholar is different. He has the title of a great scholar. Shen Fengho said this and then carefully explained, from low to high scholar titles are scholar, great scholar, country scholar, great country scholar, sage and great sage. Each country can only have a limited number of scholars. Actually, with Old Yun's talent, he can also become a great scholar, but southern Xia is a small country, so the highest one can be a great scholar. The scholar title is not only effective in this country, it can also be used in other human countries. Chu Tian nodded. Father is a great sage from 30,000 years in the future, but now I'm just a little scholar. This is truly lowering my status. With the scholar title, you will be recognized as a true scholar in southern Xia. Scholars have many advantages when traveling, but they also have many privileges, like not kneeling in front of the king, not being lynched, and etc. There aren't many scholars in southern Xia, so each one has a very high status. If the southern summer king wants to move against you, he must have a proper reason, otherwise if this news were to spread, not only would he be condemned by the citizens, he would also be looked down upon by the other human kingdoms. So it was like this. This must have been arranged by the calm martial ruler. When Chu Tian had the official scholar status, it was equal to having a protective talisman, allowing him to come to Imperial City with a peace of mind. Since it was like this, he would directly set off. The time to go to Imperial City was ripe. After Chu Tian sent off the envoy, he immediately said to Nangong Yun, "You and Big Sister Bing should prepare yourselves, we're leaving Central State immediately." Ah? Leaving immediately? Is there a need to be in such a rush? Nangong Yun was a bit depressed. I still want to see my father. Leave before the news spreads, otherwise it won't be that easy. Relax, your father is living a good life. In the future, when the Miracle Commerce communication system is built, you can contact him at any time. Don't waste words, leave immediately. Alright, I'll listen to boss. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.